Hey, Saturday night at the Atheist, but I got some really interesting news for you guys. I found Jesus.
You did?
In my pants.
Was he in your rectum?
He was in my pants.
Wrecked him. Damn near killed him.
I know.
Wow. I was wondering where he went.
You need a rim shot. You need a rim shot.
Yeah, we need a rim shot, right. I need a soundboard. So Atheist Jr. has an announcement.
Yes, tomorrow I'm going to be doing a phone interview with Kent Hovind's ex-wife, Cindy Lincoln, and publishing the video.
Wow.
Oh, yay.
Nice.
Awesome.
Ask her for a date. Ask her out on a date.
Yeah.
So look out for that video.
Are you doing this live or are you recording it?
No, she wanted to, approve the phone call before I publish it, which is I'm fine with.
Yeah. Okay.
And I need to do some editing for it anyway.
Yep.
I'm not going to edit anything out, just some visuals and stuff. But I'm probably publish it this week, like Tuesday or Wednesday.
Wow. Nice. I thought you were going to announce that you converted.
Oh, fuck no.
Because everybody else.
We need to all get together and take bets on who we can convert back to Christianity.
Yeah.
Well, don't do that.
Danny? My bet would be on Danny.
Yeah, let's see who can convert him back to Christianity first.
He'll do that himself. You don't have to worry about
he'll convert back.
I'm hoping we can convert John Maddox to Christianity at some point.
Yeah.
I mean,
apparently he's a heretic according to the Smoky Saint.
Yep.
Yeah.
Heretic.
He did another meme thingy or whatever, those community posts.
It's right here, and he didn't proofread it, so it's.
Read my comment. I put a comment in there. Read my comment.
Let's see if we can find it here.
Yeah. You have it up? No.
I'm working on it. Just relax, dude.
He's excited.
I unbanned him from my channel.
Jesus.
The fuck.
Evo Atheist.
Where's
What a
Leo?
horrible screen name.
It won't go any
Such a
bigger.
bad screen name. Like how many syllables is logical, plausible, probable? It's like 11 syllables.
Holy shit. Whoops.
How much do you want to bet he can spell none of those words?
Oh no. I think I got too many tabs open again, boys and girls. I'm gonna have I'm gonna have browser Tourette's.
Maybe.
You got to take something for that.
The mental rigidity of. Okay, so he was on that Grr Mania stream, and no matter what they started talking about, he was like YouTube atheist, just going on and on. I'm wondering what happened to him. Did some YouTube atheists say?
Touched him in the wrong way. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, maybe somebody I don't know who that would be said some unflattering things about him. I don't know.
Don't you know people that are just completely normal and just invent out of nowhere like a mental diagnosis about like a very small minority of people in the country?
Yeah.
I mean, what? I know a lot of those people actually, or know of.
Yeah, I can imagine you do.
I think that's called being a bigot.
What the fuck is this? Our favorite talking point is about how the consensus used to be wrong. Like, they keep comparing science and the fucking...
They can't make up their mind on consensus. First they say you can't use consensus. Now they say consensus is wrong and you can't use consensus.
He spelled consensus wrong.
Oh, did he?
What else is
On
new?
the second
yes.
paragraph.
He spells it wrong everywhere. So, good. Well, he has a few other typos. We should edit this stuff for him and help him out.
No, remember though, guys, this guy is a millionaire. He apparently went on to make millions making other people their websites, which why people can make their own websites, I have no clue.
You can make your own website at Squarespace.
You can.
.com.
And they probably do a lot better job than John Maddox did.
You gotta stop that.
And this is the edited version, so I guess he edited it and missed the typo.
So I guess he edited it, noticed he made a typo, and was just like, nah, fuck it.
I'm so perfect. I can't have made a typo. I'm perfect.
I'm the greatest person ever that people will not notice this and just don't care.
I had the best brain aneurysm ever, and the doctors were so impressed that I drove myself to the hospital. One of the nurses started sucking my dick. Like, it was incredible.
Yeah.
The doctors were so impressed with my medical knowledge, they let me perform the aneurysm. Not the aneurysm. They let me perform the operation on myself.
They let me give them an aneurysm.
Neuroscientists came from everywhere just to tell him that he should be dead. That was the other part of the story.
Yeah, they traveled. They wanted him to be dead.
But isn't this evidence that he actually had a major aneurysm?
Maybe.
He had an aneurysm. So
he has had a aneurysm, which we know through outside sources, and partially because
scroll down, Speed.
Okay, but I'm looking at this Andrew Cumming dude.
Yeah, he looks like he wrote a book.
Who is that? There's a Cumming dude.
He's such a schmucktard.
I know. Schmuckly schmucktard.
Hey, Leo.
Okay. Oh, Standing for Truth. Epic, John. It was epic.
Hey, Leo.
Darn.
Well,
I was hoping he was going to add something actually relevant.
You know, Standing for Truth is such a cheerleader. He will cheer somebody on as long as they're part of his camp, no matter what they say.
Oh,
John he was saying that Dr. Dan got destroyed by Kent Hovind, which is just bullshit.
I'd be curious to see like what argument, if you want to call it that, of Dr. Hovind's that
I get at least
or
one
Mr.
mention.
Hovind that LVP finds
90% of the weather reports.
Should we tell him that we made a deal backstage to always mention him once a day, no matter what?
Yeah, we made a deal with the devil, unfortunately. Devil's a pretty cool dude, actually.
Well, keeping him happy, you know. He would be very upset if he didn't. I'm telling you, he listens to every word because we talked about Germania's, that video that you were just talking about, Speed, when he was on it, right? We talked about that for literally seconds, right? I mean, we barely mentioned it. I mean, I brought it up. I told you about it, and we barely talked about it, and he mentioned it. He mentioned it in Praise's side chat earlier. Praise was doing a live stream earlier, and he mentioned it. Germania guy, he showed up in the side chat, and he's like, "Oh, they talked about my video. Oh, I want to go see it. Where's the link? Where's the link?" That was
notice how the responses that Quantum John is giving here aren't actually responses to anything that the commenter
this
said.
is a brilliant rebuttal. I mean, look at this.
What else is new under the sun with Maddox?
Oh my God.
Yeah, don't you love that rebuttal? Yeah, that was a good one.
Did you like my comment? Did you like my comment?
I have to analyze it first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Your fucking comment is longer than most of my textbooks. Okay.
Really? How many of those textbooks have you read, Speed?
That's a textbook case of comment.
I read the one on Answers from Answers in Genesis. Answers 4. I read that one.
It's like giving cancer to your brain.
That's a book with text in it. It's not a textbook.
It's a book with text. That's a textbook. That is literally the definition of a textbook.
You know the thing that's harder than Chinese algebra? Complex analysis.
Chinese checkers?
Complex analysis.
Yeah, I have to take that course in spring. I'm kind of looking forward to it, but it's kind of
no. Differential analysis is pretty
Chinese algebra is a course?
Well, it might as well be the way the Chinese teach it.
Damn Chinese.
Made in China.
Differential analysis, is that like differential topology?
I have no idea.
You know what's hard is tensor calculus.
Yeah, but
yeah,
aren't you
that's
supposed-
not all that bad at some multivariate. The thing with like multivariate level calculus is not that it's hard; it's that it's tedious. There's a lot you have to do if you're actually solving or at least approximating solutions to equations.
You know,
It's not-
one thing I
Once you know the rules, all you got to do is just walk through. It's just you got to do it for each individual variable. It's just tedious, not hard.
You know,
Well, the
here's
longer,
one
the
thing
longer
I
it
don't.
takes, more
here's
chances
the
for
one-
you to make a mistake.
Before you
Here's the one
nerds
thing
get
I
too
don't-
deep into this, stop. Before you nerds get too deep into this, hold on a second.
I just
Before
want to
we
make
get
a
off
comment.
of John, little pee-pee, did anybody realize that he's homeless too?
Yes.
Anybody hear
Yes.
about that?
Maybe
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's fantastic.
No, I didn't know he
I'm-
was homeless. I don't.
He
Really
said it
care?
himself. I think he's living in his truck.
He's
Well-
moving to Florida. I thought he had a house in Florida. He's moving to.
Yeah, but there's a problem. There's a problem with it. So he's living
Oh,
in his truck now, I think.
awesome.
If,
he-
if,
he
if
said it
Floridians won't accept you, you know you got problems.
How did
He
you figure
said
this
he
out?
wrote that himself in a side chat. So I'm just
Wow.
repeating.
Right.
I'm just
It's kinda
repeating
hot
what
and
he
humid down in Florida right
On
now.
whose channel?
I think so. I think that's where he wrote it. I saw him
Who?
write it. I was there. I think it was on Praises. I'm pretty sure.
How long? When?
Yes, it was. It was on Praises. Yes.
When?
I don't think it wasn't today. I think it was yesterday. It was either yesterday or the night before. Pretty sure it was yesterday.
Yeah, just ending the math thing real quick. The one thing I don't miss about differential equations is literally every problem taking an hour to solve. Just
So,
because the problem was that long, and it's like, there is no faster way to solve this, or else I would use it.
Unless you
The
become a really
thing
good
is,
programmer.
I
and
was
come up
looking
with
at
your
it.
own
I was
program
looking at
for
a
that.
graduate level theoretical physics test. 4 questions. You have 3 hours to complete it.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, because at some point or another, like, a physicist and mathematician kind of become the same profession almost. Like, theoretical physics is almost like being a mathematician, because the mathematics you're dealing with at that point is like so technical and so convoluted. It's hard to get a grip around.
What are you guys talking about now? My internet just cut out for a second.
Theoretical physics, the stuff like Sean Carroll does for a living.
Yeah.
Oh,
Gordon Freeman.
I liked your comments a
Leonard
lot, Andrew.
Susskind.
That was a great
Oh.
comment.
thank you.
That was a
I tried
wonderful
to,
comment.
to write it well.
You don't have
Okay.
to lie to people, Speed.
Yeah, it was a pretty good.
It's
It was
okay.
a pretty good comment.
Andrew, one thing I will say is that when you write long comments like that, it's best to separate the paragraphs.
Are you fucking picking on him now?
Okay,
Remember,
fine. If he doesn't
I-
want any advice, whatever.
I
Remember,
was
Midnight is a
thinking
grammar
about it.
Nazi.
I was thinking about adding like bullet points, but I didn't feel like it would be as dramatic.
I mean, if you guys want to read a wall of text, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. It's YouTube.
YouTube.
Moving on.
I'm not a fan of Trump, so I don't like walls of any kind.
Did anybody see the
had to
debate
take it
tonight?
political. You had to take it political.
Everything is
we all-
political.
Did we all see the debate tonight?
No.
Yes,
What
I did.
debate?
What's debate?
Matt Dillahunty and Kenny Rhodes.
What is Kenny Rhodes' specialty?
It
Is
was-
he an apologist or
He's got
It was
an MDiv and a PhD in theology.
okay? So he's just
There we go.
Did they
Typical
define?
Christian.
Did they define what evidence was before they started?
There was
I
a lot
believe
of
Matt
woo
did.
in there. There was plenty of woo in there. Speed, you may be able
A
to.
lot of essence. A lot of essence, right?
Right, essence, right.
A lot of
This is-
essence.
Speed, you could
I
probably
want-
tell us what that is, right? Essence and essence, nature, and what was the other one? There was 3 things.
Well,
Nature
you gotta remember, David, essence is the nature of a thing, and the nature of a
Right.
thing is its essence.
is right, exactly.
Well,
yeah,
that
that's-
sounds circular as all fuck.
Yeah,
I mean,
that
I
was
do like
the-
Kenny, but I don't think he presented a very good argument.
Yeah, it was
It
terrible.
was not the right direction he should have gone.
Yeah, it was all word
Speaking of
salad.
arguments, weren't you on like Khalil Allah's thing
Clear la
last?
la, yeah. Last
week?
last Saturday. Mm-hmm.
I saw the
Didn't you wanna-
Nephilim free debate yesterday, so
Did you want to
anybody
go
see that
over
one?
parts of that, or
I'm sure if you guys want to.
Did I mention?
Sure.
Did I mention while we were live that I watched the? I watched Praise versus not Praise. I can't remember. The debate was Sal and RJ Downard from last week. That was a pretty good one.
That was something else. The way that it was set up seemed like it was just a way for Sal to sit there and rant and rave, and then RJ got to ask a few questions here and there. Like that's the way it seemed set up to me. That was not. It just did not seem fair.
I don't want to demean Sal's character, and partially because like I haven't seen all of his debates, but has Sal had a discussion like where he actually sticks to the topic?
Well, the thing that I see with Sal is that it almost seems like, and I'm really not saying this like to be offensive, but it seems that he almost cowers from a debate, or in the sense that he doesn't want his position to be actively challenged, but he still wants to have a discussion where he can present his position. And I saw that in his debate with RJ. That debate did seem a little bit one-sided to me.
But
Yeah,
that's a
I don't
Christian
know.
thing. That's a Christian thing. I mean, they all do that, right?
Well, I mean,
Pretty much, most
actually,
of them.
no. James is
Really?
pretty
I mean-
good about being fair and ensuring that everybody gets an opportunity to speak. But that was just an interesting debate.
No, but I mean, it gets way off topic. That's a typical thing, right? I mean, for them to do that, they all seem to do that.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of what I meant, what I was talking about. But
By the way, if we're gonna review some of that discussion, we might want to start now because I'm joining Amy's after show when that starts.
Sure, let's do it. What's the after show on exactly?
The debate between Dillahunty and Rhodes.
Okay.
Is there good evidence for God?
No.
yeah,
Depends
yeah.
what good means.
I don't know. To me, evidence is analytically good, assuming that we can and everybody could agree on a definition of good. So I don't understand like good evidence and bad evidence. Like it's either evidence or it's not. It's not that it can be good or
I'll
bad.
take any evidence
can
at this
say
point.
that there could be a degree. So you could say it's evidence for many different things, and then you can get it a little bit stronger and say, well, it's evidence for less things, and you hone it down. But I don't know what good evidence or bad evidence is. That makes no sense to me.
But before we review it, Leo, I have
I mean-
one question.
There's a thing I just thought of, and it might be like something on the right track. Something like good evidence for a proposition might be like facts or a set of data that comports well to that proposition over.
Yeah, that would just be evidence.
Yeah.
Well,
That's just
maybe
evidence.
it's like, are there multiple good arguments? Like, is there more than one, and are the arguments sound? Like a
Well, then
quantity of
that would
evidence?
just
that's-
still be evidence. That would just you have evidence.
Yeah, but
I'm
just
willing to
a
do
high
like
quantity
strong
versus
and
a low
weak.
quantity.
I'm willing to do strong and weak evidence because it still when you strong and weak tells you that you still have something indicating something else, but it's about how the level to which it indicates it. Does it indicate a broad set of potential explanations, or is it very narrow? Weak versus strong, but good versus bad. That's a distinction. Like I said, to me, evidence analytically is good.
Oh, there you go. I was going to say, I mean, good and bad. I was going to say,
Yeah, because
good,
if it
good
was
evidence
bad,
has-
it wouldn't be evidence.
good evidence excludes things, right? That's what.
Yeah.
I was
Well, I mean, bad evidence for X might be good evidence for Y. I mean, there might be.
Well, then I would say
some
it's not evidence for X and it is evidence for Y.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, what if it's the case that like the evidence you present doesn't relate to, like,
The thing that you
trying to
talked about, then it wouldn't be evidence for it.
yeah, that's true. That's the thing. Like when you abstract
Well,
it so much,
I
it's hard
guess-
to develop particulars.
What I'm saying is that the phrase "good evidence" sounds to me like saying an animal dog. or an animal human. What?
Yeah.
There's almost it's almost tautological there, or it's like saying an unmarried bachelor. Like what? You're adding the predicate that is intrinsically contained within the subject as a prefix to the subject. It makes no sense to me, and that's why I say evidence is analytically or by definition good. If it's not good indication for something, then it's not evidence.
Well, usually Matt Dillahunty is pretty picky about the titles of his debates, so I'm kind of surprised that he accepted a debate with that title. Or I'm sure he probably commented on this during his opening or during the debate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the thing is, and it's a comment that's made very often of arguments for God, is that there is no argument for God that's like that's specific towards like any particular deity. Like, if I accept the Kalam, for instance, it doesn't commit me to like the God of Abraham or something like that.
Yeah, maybe they
nor
should
does
have
it-
said, are there good arguments for God? Maybe not good evidence.
That's I think
Yeah.
a better way of putting it, because I do think there are good arguments for God.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Kalam is a decent argument for some kind of deity. I don't know if it points you
Yeah.
necessarily to
A deistic God.
it probably gets you to something deistic, and I've talked to a few people, one of them being Jay, but we won't go into it here, but I do think that if you accept the Kalam, it commits you to something beyond naturalism, but that's a whole other...
I think
I
if you
think it
accept
can be
just the two
convincing.
premises and the conclusion, all that commits you to is a cause for reality's existence.
Yeah, I think you can conclude something else, though, is that the type of cause that you're referring to cannot be natural.
I don't see why.
To me, and it could be a naive judgment, it's to explain a natural thing like the universe by appealing to other natural things, to me, kind of strikes me as being circular.
Well, isn't that what science does? It appeals to natural
It's-
things that we see, but it uses other natural things to explain them.
It
So why would we expect, if there is a cause of the universe, which I don't think is the right language to begin with, why would we expect it to be anything other than something natural? That's all we've ever seen, ever.
when you're talking with somebody like Khalil, what cause essentially means the type of cause that's like being invoked is essentially akin to like a reason. In other words,
Yeah, yes.
a way of reframing like the Kalam is that either everything that exists like is fundamental or has a reason for it.
Yeah, they
for
rest
it
heavily on the
existing.
principle of sufficient reason.
Yeah,
I reject the principle of sufficient reason.
I do too. I think the principle of sufficient
I
reason
don't think there's a good
fails.
argument. I don't think there's a good argument for a defense of the PSR. What reasons are things humans seek. Reality isn't committed to having them or providing them to us. So we shouldn't expect that there will be reasons, as in sufficient warrant for something in everything that we see. We can't expect that for reality. Maybe in a lot of things, maybe even in most things, but I'm not willing to grant in all things.
Well, I mean, I think it comes back to something related to incompleteness. If there is a reason, like if there's a reason for all types of things, like if you analyze the thing itself, like in this case, say the universe, right, which is what the Kalam's doing, it's saying the universe is something which exists and there must be a reason for that. Well, the reason...
Yeah, that's more the Leibnizian cosmological argument.
Leibnizian, I've never...
Yeah, that the universe must have a reason for its existence, whether it's eternal or not. The Kalam plays on the same idea, but it's more, if the universe is finite into the past and had a beginning, there must have been something which begun the universe. So it's a reason in a sense of an effective cause for the existence of the universe, since it has a point of beginning at some point in its past.
Yeah, that I disagree with then, if that's the proper framing of the argument.
Yeah, that's why I reject the Kalam as well. I don't think it makes any sense to speak of the early universe in terms of causality, because reality fundamentally makes no sense when you try to speak of it in terms of causality. You're not going to get anything out of it. Causality is not going to be applicable there.
Yeah, I mean, I do think, and it doesn't relate to the Kalam necessarily, but I do think there are features of the universe where it's just saying, like, oh, well, the universe is the way it is. It's just unsatisfactory as an explanation. I mean, like a particular example is like the structure of the periodic table and the way chemicals react with each other. For instance, I can imagine forms of chemistry or forms of life rather, where like silicon, for instance, is the element that bears life, but it's not for fairly clear reasons. The way silicon as an element behaves and reacts with things just isn't very suitable for the types of things that life does on a chemical basis. And to some extent, I mean, I do sympathize with creationists when they say things like, when they do express this kind of like confusion of how and why the universe has the structure it did, because it doesn't seem to be trivial.
I don't know what that means.
Causality is
anyway.
problematic.
I don't even know if it's
Well-
worth covering this because I mean, she said she's going live at 9:30, but it'll probably be a little bit after that. So we
Yeah.
can start covering some of it. And I mean, after I leave, it's not like I have to be here for you guys to talk about it. Obviously,
Oh, we could talk about you.
you sure as hell can.
Yeah.
Talk about how stupid this argument is. Oh,
Steve
So-
McRae told me he got sent this video, and that the person that sent it to him wanted him to review it. And I was like, oh, interesting. I'm
So
actually not
was it a-
surprised that he ended up seeing it.
Do I have the timestamp right, Leo? Because I might have fucked with it
Yes,
a
you
little
do.
bit. Okay. So 155. So let's.
The answer that I give, and I think this is the response that Dr. Craig would give as well, is we mean something along the lines of temporal becoming, that something that it is actualized into a state of being from previously not having being, that there's
Can
a
you pause right
temporal
there really
becoming
quickly?
there.
I want to get a
Problem I
point
have with that,
if I try to establish something here. What I just said, does everybody in here have at least they think a pretty good idea of what it was I was trying to say?
I think
Kind
I
of.
do.
I think
yeah,
so. Yeah.
yes,
You were talking about causality, right?
yeah.
Well,
As a
that was his
temporal
dribble.
I was talking about temporal becoming, the idea that something that is in the future, when it comes into the present, it like most literally comes into existence in space-time. Temporal
right.
becoming. Because
Yeah.
this was a point that I think was lost on Hatim. I definitely think this was a point lost on him. Anyway,
I
continue.
think, I think it was lost on all of them.
I wanted to see if you guys understood what I meant, because I was thinking, did I really not explain this in a
Yeah.
good
I-
way? I thought I did.
I think you did. I watched this live. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I was.
Yeah, I
was
think there were
watching
even a
this when
couple
it
people
happened.
in the chat that said that
Yeah.
they were understanding what I was saying.
Yeah, yeah, and I think they didn't get it. I think you're correct, but we'll play it and see. Yeah.
Is that it presumes the A theory of time, and I don't really think one can justify adhering to the A theory of time, especially in the face of not just the mathematical data that we have, but the experimental and observational data that we have showing us that the B theory of time seems to certainly better comport with our reality, but certainly also better explains the observations that we make.
Yes.
You think it better explains tense facts?
What do you mean by tensed facts?
Something that happened in the past. You can use language to express a proposition, meaning that I ate lunch an hour ago, I'm driving my car now, and I will be in bed tonight at 10:30 p.m.
Yeah, I would just argue those are facets of our linguistic systems, and because we intuitively experience time in a particular manner, our linguistic systems are obviously restricted to those experiences. We don't really have at least any coherent way of detaching our phenomenological experience of time from our linguistic descriptions of time. So I would say that the tenseless theory of time doesn't really need to explain tensed facts. Those are just linguistic conventions we utilize for explaining how we phenomenologically experience time, despite the fact that that's not exactly what time is in terms of an objective feature of reality.
So it's not literally true. Tense facts are not literally true.
I don't know if I would use that language, but in a sense, yes. They're true experientially, I guess would be the way that I would say it. They're true by how we experience time, but removing those experiences, which we obviously wouldn't be capable of doing, it would be hard to utilize the language that we do.
They're not true from a third person objective standpoint.
That is correct, yes.
Okay.
So for the audience, could you just explain what a B theory of time is and how it differentiates between A theory?
Yeah. So an A theory of time is something, and I really hope this doesn't come off as uncharitable, but it helps, at least for the sake of initially explaining what it is, to sort of juxtapose it with presentism, but there are some nuances there between just broadly what the A theory of time is and then presentism. But it's the idea that all that one can say really exists is the present moment. The future are events that do not yet exist but will. They exist in the sense that they're just pure potentiality. The past at once existed but no longer does. But the present moment is all that exists and is all that we experience. Whereas the B theory of time states that all moments of time are equally real, and this idea of time flowing around us, so to speak, is an illusion of our conscious or our phenomenological experience of time.
It's an illusion, so there is no real progression from one state to another state. All states exist independently.
Pause,
right?
not in a this is where the misunderstanding started. He kept trying to conflate the idea of change occurring with the idea of temporal becoming, such that you can't have any real sort of change without temporal becoming, which would be rejected by most B theorists. And that was the main problem here. And I made that clear at least 4 separate times. Like, I explicated on what the problem is, where the divide is, and tried to further explain why he's misrepresenting what most B theorists would say. But I just think it fell on deaf ears.
Would having explained a ball as a tube in space-time have helped him understand where you were at?
No, I really don't think so.
I don't know. That's usually seems the simplest way to explain it.
I'm not sure I understand that, but okay.
I thought I did a pretty damn good job there explaining the difference between the two. Maybe not.
I don't know. Okay.
I mean, presentism, if I recall right, just wants to say like that what's here is the here and now, where eternalism kind of, and I know that what I'm saying is probably to some extent inaccurate, but the gist of it is kind of saying that like all moments of time kind of exist almost simultaneously, I guess.
We're just in a different place.
Well, not simultaneously, but they're all equally real.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and for us, I mean, I guess that's kind of hard to grasp, like what that means.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Because
are we all traveling at light speed right now?
No.
Yes.
Depends relative to what.
Well, and that's the thing too. Like,
we're not traveling
to
at light speed relative to anything.
To a flashlight?
Why wouldn't we, though? If there's other galaxies that are traveling faster than the speed of light away from us, why wouldn't we be traveling?
Because they're causally disconnected from us.
Okay. I don't know.
Well, I think what the guy was saying before was he trying to express that like that you could conclude, or that the way like that we would. Actually, were you saying essentially that because of like the way our language has evolved, like we kind of have to use presentism as a?
Well, no. What I was trying to say is that when we talk of like I ate lunch an hour ago, like you said, or I'm going to go to the mall in a day or something like that, we speak of things in this past, present, future, this tensed manner because of the experiences that we have. And our language is built off of the ways that we experience reality. But that might not be how reality is. It might just be the ways that we experience what reality is. And the way that reality is, it wouldn't make sense to speak of things in terms of tense.
Right.
So it was just kind of describing how we're limited by our linguistic systems and how we describe the world, because in some senses we're limited by the ways that we experience phenomenologically the world around us.
Yeah, and I guess like with certain theories like that, I mean, some things, especially in higher level physics like general relativity, there's some things you just can't easily describe, but the math perfectly describes in its own way.
And for the person that asked, we are actually moving equally to the speed of light.
No, we're not.
Yeah. Any velocity you don't have in space, you have in time.
Yeah, but we're not actually moving at some velocity in time. All that's being stated is for us, time moves at 1 second per second. That's all that's being stated. But people convolute it to make it sound cool, like that we're moving at we're moving at the speed of light in time. We're not moving in time. That's it, and this is where it just gets different when speaking about time as it really is.
We're talking about space time, not A and B.
Within our local light cone, light travels at 1 second per second.
Wait, what?
Time is 1 second per second.
For us, we move through time at a rate of 1 second per second.
But what about
not all 1 seconds are equal. That's why you can
actually.
That's why you can move velocity from time.
Yes, they would be equal. There is no frame of reference that you could measure yourself from. If you measured yourself from your own frame of reference, you will always measure your time as 1 second per second.
That is
you
true.
cannot
That doesn't mean
measure
they're all equal.
your own frame of reference as being relativistic when you're measuring it from your own frame of reference.
Yeah, but that doesn't
when you
mean
measure
they're
your own frame of reference from your frame of reference, it will always be inertial.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they're equal.
Wait, that doesn't mean what's equal?
What metric are you using to say that there's some differentiation between 1 second of time and some other not the same 1 second of time? What's delineating the two?
I mean, if all you're trying to say is that 2 clocks will elapse at different rates, yeah, that's true. But for humans, we move through time at a rate of 1 second per second. We would always measure ourselves.
What I'm saying is not all seconds are equal. Is that if you take 2 people and they measure their second, of course they're 1 second. But to a third person observing those 2 people, they might not be equal.
Well, sure.
Of course not.
That's all I'm saying.
Clocks elapse at different rates.
And this is why. Whatever speed you don't have in velocity through space, you have through time.
That's not really a good way of putting it.
That's exactly how it's put in physics.
No, actually. I know.
It really is.
I know what videos you're referring to that you've watched.
I haven't watched
I've
videos.
watched other ones, and that's really not the right way to put it.
I haven't watched videos, so I don't know where you're getting your video education from.
MIT lectures.
Okay. How did
lectures
they put it?
by Sean Carroll and lectures by Leonard Susskind.
How did they put it? Did they say something other than you have?
Well, they just don't really speak of movement through time the way that it's broken down for a lay audience.
I watched PBS Space Time, which I think is
Matt O'Dowd's really good. I like that series.
Yeah, PBS Space Time is a great educational resource. He does really good animations and breaks things down as simple as it can be for
it's
the
funny
kind
too.
of stuff he's going into.
Some of the videos are funny too.
The thing is, he has a good sense of humor when he makes those videos, so it's not completely dry.
Yeah. There's Easter eggs in the videos sometimes, if you're paying attention.
Yeah, he's very cheeky about how he speaks about some of the physics as well. He's not scared to. He's not scared.
I like the original host, Gabe, too. He was also good.
Gabe.
Yeah, the first host of Space Time was a different guy. If you look at the oldest videos, yeah, those are good too.
I did not know that, but okay.
Neither did I.
Yeah, he made more videos analyzing video games and stuff. They were less serious topics, but he made some good videos too, explaining E equals MC squared and the speed of light and that. So those videos are also good.
Cool. No, that's pretty
if you
cool.
just sort by oldest videos.
It's been a long time since I watched PBS Space Time. Thank you for reminding me to check out that channel again.
Yeah,
the last thing I watched for them was they were trying to describe the physics of the inside of a black hole, or physics near the singularity of a black hole or something like that. And that was just
Well, one of my favorite videos from there is when they talk about using analog black holes in the lab, which is they just use water
they're studying
vortexes.
water vortexes and stuff like that. That's
It helped me understand black holes a lot better.
I do wonder like how similar they actually are though, or
Not
if that's
very.
just like
Well, you got to remember
phenomenological
certain
similarity.
simulational aspects really help in terms of like our equations and how we can calculate things, but intuitively are very different things. Black holes really aren't that complicated. It's just that they're overcomplicated because there's so much out there that isn't entirely accurate because it's people trying to dumb it down for a lay audience and not doing a very good job of it.
Well, don't the physics of a black hole become complicated like once things start to get really clustered and near the singularity of a black hole?
Yes. Also, if you have a Kerr-Newman black hole versus a Schwarzschild black hole.
I do not know the difference between the two.
Schwarzschild black hole is a non-rotating black hole.
Oh,
A
okay.
Kerr-Newman black hole is a rotating black hole.
Oh,
Yeah, because a black hole can either have a spin or it can have a charge or it can be sort of neutral.
Don't all black holes have a net charge of 0?
No.
I thought they. Okay.
There's only 3 properties we can measure about a black hole: mass, charge, and spin.
Oh, that's interesting.
The rest, the other properties are called hair. And so when you hear the phrase black holes have no hair, that means we can't measure any other properties about a black hole.
Yeah, it's like the no hair theorem.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, what is that theorem? I know essentially the consequence of the theorem. It's that
any other information about the black hole is essentially lost inside of it, beyond the event horizon.
What is it? Noether's
Noether's theorem. For all
Yeah,
observed symmetries in nature, there must be some corresponding conserved quantity.
Yeah, for every symmetry that exists, there's a conservation law that corresponds to it, or something like that. It's effectively the statement of the theorem.
All right, Leo, I got a question for you.
Huh?
You look out at galaxies, right? And you got spiral galaxies, right? So if the universe is technically flat, right? So, and you look at the universe is basically like a fabric, right? Isn't that kind of generally what it's like?
I prefer the term manifold. We look at it like a manifold.
You're gonna have to explain what a manifold is to a lay audience.
No mathematics.
That's a very topological concept.
It's a 3-dimensional space in which things can be mapped, in which certain observations can be preserved between objects and transformations.
Yeah, it's a specific.
So my
This
question
is why you can't understand physics if you don't understand math.
Yeah, if you don't understand topology, you're
Because
pretty much
it's
doomed.
definitionally you're screwed.
Yeah.
Anyway,
if you don't
what were you saying, David?
So how do the galaxies, when you look out, like say you look out at a spiral galaxy and you see them in all different directions, like you might see one flat on or on an angle, they're all on different planes.
On different planes, yeah.
Yeah, and when everything is warp in space, they're all kind of sitting on their own fabric. So that's, I don't know, that's kind of hard. How do they get to twist in different directions when you're looking
I
out?
think he's asking why do some galaxies have different rotations than others?
Are you asking why they're on different planes?
Yeah, like how do
because
they get?
there is no preferred plane.
I mean, how do they get to be? If you can look out and you can see some of them on straight on, like on their flat, and some are on tilted, some are this way, that way. They're all different directions. How do they get to that? How do they get to be that way?
It's just the way they formed. Just the large scale structure of the universe and the forces acting to create it.
Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's not that we don't know. It's just that we shouldn't expect anything other than a random distribution for the planes that galaxies exist on. So there's no reason to expect that they would be anything other than random and in a variety of different directions. And this sort of relates to both the homogeneity and the isotropy of the universe.
Did you see that new discovery that they just come up with? I think it's fairly new. There's a structure out there that's almost like a tube, and it's spinning almost like if you looked at like a candy cane, how the colors go around like that, like You know how if you looked at a candy cane, right, spiral like that, right? There's a structure out there that's massive, that's spinning like that in that direction. Like if you took a candy cane and spun it around, and then they can see the red shift and blue shift, how that structure is like the galaxies within it are. Are
you talking about what we found about the cosmic web recently? Is that?
Yeah, it's a part. Yeah, it's within the web structure, but
you're talking to like the 3.6 billion light year thing structure that we found. Yeah, that's somewhat anomalous, but it's not like anything that's super special. I'm not going to try to explain it right now, but I can find.
Well, if he's talking about recent, he's talking about what we found about all the different strands of the cosmic web.
Yeah, but this one's different though.
I think you're talking about the one they recently discovered that's like 3.6 billion light years long.
Yeah, it's huge. Yeah, it's massive and it's spinning like that, like you would take a tube and spin it.
Jesus Christ, why the fuck does it take everything so goddamn long to load?
I just saw that today, as a matter of fact. I saw that.
Yeah, give me just a second here.
Pretty new. I don't think they really know much about it. It's a new, it's a new discovery, and they're checking it out, trying to figure it out why that one section.
So here we go. Space that looks like a candy cane that's spinning.
No, it's just that there's some rotating structure in the universe that's larger than what we would expect. Here's an article from Ethan Siegel in Forbes magazine talking about it.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what it. That was the best way I could explain it, but.
What's up?
I put the link instead of in Speed's YouTube chat and Amy's YouTube chat.
What's that?
Well, all right.
So we're gonna be like, why is he linking to Ethan Siegel?
Yeah.
All right, there. Now it's in Speed's YouTube chat. Okay. They just went live, so I'll probably be around here for maybe about another 5 minutes.
I'll probably.
I read Ethan's article on it, but I've only read it once, so I don't actually remember anything about it. I need to read it again because usually I read these articles a few times just to really understand what it is.
Yeah, to let it sink in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how new that is. That's pretty. How new is it? I know it's fairly new.
I think this past week maybe. But I did want to say really quickly to Andrew Cumming, the way that he worded the thing about the black hole earlier is that it captures your future path, such that there essentially there is no future of you existing outside of the singularity. So that was a very, very good way of putting it. And another way of putting it is that the away from direction off of a black hole does not exist. Because space-time is curved in back onto it.
There it is right there. See the picture there? That's it.
That's pretty interesting.
Well, yeah, that's not really a picture of it. That's more an artist's rendition.
Right. Rotate. Right, but that's what I was talking about right there.
Cool.
Kind of looks like a candy cane. See how it's like, and the red and the blue is the red and blue shift as it's going away from us and coming forward. Right. It's kind of like showing the spin. Yeah.
Cool. I'll put that in the description.
Alrighty, guys. I am gonna bounce out. It's been much fun. I may be back later. I don't know. Just depends. Much love to everybody. Be well.
Okay. Later. Okay, guys. So Amy's starting a stream.
Everybody, be well.
After the host.
What's happening?
The hell, Speed. Come on.
She won't be letting anybody in for a while, right? Doesn't she usually go for quite a while? They discuss stuff and then she lets people in?
Usually they have a little foreplay session for like a few.
That wasn't me. Minutes. I don't know where they came from.
It was not me.
Yeah, it wasn't me either. I don't have anything open.
I got everything muted. Muted.
On the advice of my attorney, I plead the fifth.
I choose to plead, yeah.
Well, I don't want to abandon Speed, so I'm just going to give my argument. I'm going to give in there, if that's okay.
All right.
Okay.
Go for it.
There is no good evidence for God because there's no good evidence for atheism.
Okay. I was just going to say there's no good evidence for God because there's no fact to which the evidence corresponds to. But
No, all the facts equally correspond to either proposition: there is a God or there isn't a God.
I disagree.
Well, there isn't anything you can point to that couldn't be explained by a deity, or vice versa.
What?
Yeah, but if a deity explains everything, it essentially explains
Then
nothing.
it explains nothing. Right. I was just about to
Oh
say
yeah,
the
but
same
everything
thing.
can also be explained by by physical properties. So does that make that not explainable?
Well, that's just
I'm
simply
saying
okay.
That's where I disagree with you. I don't think everything is explained by physical properties. I think the way we explain physical properties is by abstracts.
Right, but what's its essence?
Then everything is explained by abstracts.
What is its
No.
essence, though?
Some things are explained by physical properties, and some things are explained by abstracts.
Okay,
Okay,
if you want to
non-deity things.
If you want to talk about metaphysical systems, right? Like something outside of everything that you can explain everything that we have with metaphysical systems. There are an infinite number of them that you can use to explain everything. So you come up with an infinite number of just so stories. And theism is just another just so story, like last Thursdayism, which I like more to explain everything. But I mean, there's an infinite number of ways you could explain why we're here if you're sitting around a campfire telling just so stories. And most of what people think is metaphysics is just so stories. They're things that humans think up that sort of fit the model that our brains and bodies follow. And what we came up with is that there's this big chieftain who runs a tribe who created everything. That's just a just so story. So I mean, it's not even worth not believing in.
But isn't the theory of everything basically the pursuit of creating the one big just so story?
Yeah, but that would be
Sort
a just
of.
so. It would it would be a just so story that had mathematics in it that actually created the structures that are inside the system, right? And that would be not exactly a just so story. That would be a legitimate possible explanation.
Here's the way to get around it, right? It's a just so story, the way other stories are just so stories, but it's a just so story that is justified by evidence.
How do I join the chat?
And quite a large number.
That's the lunatic. Get rid of him. I was just about to.
Oh, okay. Oh, is that the?
Get rid? Yeah.
So, do you know who he is?
Yeah, that's the CJ. I think he goes by. Yeah.
Oh,
he's the guy that talked to Pine Creek. Get rid of him.
Okay.
Did you see the thing on Pine Creek's channel?
Yeah, I did.
That's him.
Yeah, he was talking about a snake that eats it.
Yes. Yeah.
So
wasn't he on the Rages channel last week or?
He was talking about an Ouroboros.
Recently?
Yes. Yeah, I think he was.
Ouroboros?
Yeah.
Why do people bring up that creature?
Yeah, I'm going to leave him in chat. So, he's entertaining. You can talk about his Ouroboros snake or whatever the fuck it is. It's like instead of hell, you go into the belly of a snake that's wrapped around the earth or some fucking thing like that. What wasn't that kind of the upshot?
Yep.
The belly of
I've
the
seen
snake.
some weird mythology, and that definitely falls under that category.
Did you read that? He's got a video. Matt Dillahunty will be placed in the outer darkness.
Okay,
that's one of his videos. Yeah, and he'll be placed in the belly of that snake, and that's the outer darkness.
What I was thinking is that snake he's got really bad indigestion because there's just tons of pizza being shoveled into that snake's belly, and I think I kind of want to go there.
Well, what about the eternal ferret that will, or mongoose? I mean, that will eat the snake.
The eternal. Oh, there you go.
There fucking go.
That's what came to me the other night in a dream vision.
Well, this guy is brilliant. Look at this. Look what he said. Oh my god.
Evolution is fake. Boy, I haven't heard that one at all. That's not an original statement at all. That's
But the key part of that is it's an alt text.
I know you're trying to warn us of all sorts of impending doom, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, we
I appreciate when my dog Kira runs to the front door barking, and I look out and there's nothing there. At least she's trying to do her thing.
Do the right thing. Yeah,
do the right thing. Yeah, just trying to do the right thing.
Let's see if we can meet him on some middle ground, though. Evolution, as we currently know it, is most certainly incorrect.
There you go. Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Well, at the very least, it's limited in its predictive capacity.
Yes, it's
I'll give you that.
transient.
That's
What are
bullshit.
the words? Transient
No, it's
and
not.
partial.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
There will be some fact of nature that has to do with it that we don't know about that will be added to it or be changed about it.
Well, yeah.
Which
Okay.
means what we know
Well,
currently is
exactly
not correct.
But how did you put it? The current version is incorrect? No,
Yeah,
it's incomplete.
As we know it currently, it is not correct.
It's incomplete.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, guess what you call an incomplete answer?
You don't call it incorrect. You just
I
call it
do.
incomplete.
Right.
Well, if you're going to
Does it tell you what's real or does it not?
Well, it gives you correct answers, right?
Yeah. Broken
But it
clock
doesn't
doesn't
tell
twice,
you
too.
completely what's happening. It doesn't
Okay,
do that
well-
for you.
So Cerberus, what do I have in my pockets right now? I've got $3 bills. I got some 20s. I think I got a 50. But what else is in my pocket?
Oh, I don't know, but if I had infinite guesses, I could tell you the right answer.
Yeah, but is anything that I've said incorrect about what's in my pocket?
Maybe.
There. So checkmate, motherfucker.
I don't see how that's a checkmate.
What is
Well-
the essence of what's in your pocket? What is the essence of that?
What is the complete story of what's in my pocket?
Yeah. What is the nature of it?
Well,
What is the complete theory of
with
everything? Just ask if
right-
the string appears near you.
Right
is
now,
the
with the state of
nature?
evolution, if I describe what's in my pocket and I leave out the little fibers and the dust that's in my pocket, then that's kind of the current state of evolution. We got some fibers and some dust that we haven't accounted for.
I need to know what is the nature of your pockets.
The nature. I don't know what you mean by pocket.
Describe the manifold space of inside your pockets?
I need to know.
Yeah.
That this is a question.
I don't
that
know
will-
what you mean by manifold.
Isn't that something in your car that is exhausting out of your engine?
Manifold.
Big
What a manifold
manifold
is
is
not
not
complicated.
manifold.
Right? A manifold is just a space with a set number of dimensions.
Yeah.
In a
I
specific
need to know.
geometry, yes.
I want to know the nature of the dust bunnies and what their purpose is in the universe. in
Isn't
your
a
eyes.
manifold
Number
technically
in the AutoNation catalog.
a manifold is technically an approximation at some fine point or around some fine point where you basically put together pieces to represent the complex thing that's there. So a manifold is sort of an approximating a fit of a curve, that sort of thing, a very, very tiny space. That's how I understood manifolds. How it applies to physics, I don't fucking know.
Well, I mean, because physics is in a space.
Well,
But it's theoretical physics is mainly what it applies to. That's why you have to know.
Well, no, there's in mathematics it applies to differential geometry manifolds. They use them all the time.
I mean, but space, you do geometry to figure out space, though, right?
Space-time
Yeah,
is
good.
evolving. Space-time is a manifold which evolves in time.
Okay,
Changes
in
over time.
mathematics, a manifold is a topological space that locally resembles Euclidean space near each point. It doesn't necessarily locally resembles. So it's like an approximation that they use
Right,
to
it
solve
means-
certain problems.
It means if you take a slice out of the manifold, it approximately resembles Euclidean space.
Yeah. Yep, it's kind of like
But
covering
the whole
your backyard with round paper plates. You just cover it as well as you can.
yeah, but the whole of the manifold may not be Euclidean.
And then the raccoons come.
I just remember this line I used to use forever ago, and I'm sure it would drive Speed insane if I said it.
Go ahead.
Oh, boy.
I approve.
So I used to say all the time, science is mankind's most recent attempt to be wizards.
Yeah, that's pretty much true. I think the
I
better.
kinda like that.
I think the
I
better
actually like
title
it.
for that
Okay.
though is mathematicians.
I really like that.
If you've seen some of the shit mathematicians pulled off, I can't explain it other than wizardry.
Yeah. Oh, so
You know, it's amazing on that note, like just how much like powerful mathematical artillery, I guess I'll call it, you need to solve very basic problems.
Oh yeah.
Every now and then, Stephanie says something I like too. So I don't know.
How about this one? Science is the pursuit of becoming ever less wrong. Did I say that right? I forget how I used to say it.
You know,
Yeah,
if you want to trigger somebody like Leo, just say science isn't even wrong.
I think
Science is just the trendy thing that we're doing today, and in 100 years we'll be doing some other kind of magic, right?
Well,
Yeah,
let's put it
super
this
science.
way. Let's put it this way. Science is humanity's most recent best-selling just so story about reality.
Yeah.
I think our friend there, the why non-believers, I think he's like the wind. I wonder if Stephanie could probably explain that. She knows more about the wind, I think. He like blew right through here and he's gone.
I think the wind has scattered what's left of anything that resembles Stephanie's brain.
She came up with something about Buddhism, that Buddhism is the opposite of theism or theistism. She called it.
There's forms of Buddhism which are atheistic in nature. In fact, Buddhism itself, the core tenets of Buddhism aren't necessarily theistic.
I would say the original form of Buddhism was atheistic.
See, I knew she could answer it.
Oh, the answer's blowing.
The answer's
blowing in the wind.
Yeah.
Buddhism is the opposite of religious belief.
No, not necessarily.
No, it is.
Andrew wants to come in here. He's been saying it for about an hour.
And the fundamental dogma of Buddhism, which you won't accept this, is that detachment is the path to enlightenment.
Yeah, but there's a whole lot of unpacking underneath that you need. That is very much part of Buddhism.
What all do you want to unpack with that?
Not some simple Hollywood Buddhist platitude.
What all do you want to unpack with that? I mean, those terms are fairly simple, and I don't think.
Why is detachment a good thing for human beings?
Because suffering.
Because according to Buddhist teaching, non-detachment is the root of all suffering.
Yeah.
So now
I think it's actually true.
Now you're just preaching more. You're preaching.
I'm not preaching. I'm just stating I'm stating common Buddhist dogma.
So
you know it's true. If you were literally detached from everything, there wouldn't be anything to suffer over.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the
detachment
points.
is the key to alleviating suffering. But what does it mean to be detached and to still be a thing in the world, feeding yourself, going through your life?
It means to desire nothing.
But how do you feed yourself if you desire nothing? You have to become unattached to your desire too.
I mean, a lot of monks don't feed themselves.
Basically.
But that doesn't mean getting rid of your desires. It means becoming detached.
It means both.
Okay, the laughing Buddha, it means rolling back and emitting a belly laugh and just laughing at the position that you find yourself in. Particularly when you're suffering.
It means laughing at your desires. It means laughing at things that you can't. It means laughing at your fleshly desires. It's essentially resembling content with what you have.
Oh my God. Don't say fleshly desires. You sound like a fucking Christian trying to interpret Buddhism. But it has nothing to do with getting rid of your desires. It has to do with becoming unattached to the idea of what you are as a self.
But it's all the same thing.
Right, but your desires are fundamentally attached to yourself according to that teaching.
How do you unattach from your desires? They're built into the structure of what you are.
Look, ask a Buddhist monk. I don't know. I don't know how.
That's a very good question, and it's not one that's very easily answered. But Buddhist monks will give you different ways of answering it.
Oh, every Buddhist monk will give you a different answer because every Buddhist monk is unattached to the whole. He's floating free.
Every Buddhist monk will give you a different answer because there's different. There's different ways to enlightenment. Like there's 7 different paths to enlightenment according to.
Well, what I would love to see is you asking a Buddhist monk immutable and a Buddhist monk rapping you on the head with his cane. That's what I
don't think if I asked a Buddhist monk about this conversation that they would really characterize like my description of basic Buddhist teaching as being incorrect.
There's a few of them that would go along with that bullshit. Particularly Hollywood Buddhists. Hollywood Buddhists would go along with it.
Probably you would be one of those people because you claim to understand Buddhism, but
you have to detach from your desire in such a way that you still strongly desire.
No, it's
yeah.
I'm not following that.
So you're not
the
getting
only
it.
desire you have, and it's not even really a desire at that point. It's to be content with what is.
Okay, so Buddhism is basically a kind of psychology. It's psychotherapy. Okay, and if you choose to subscribe to this psychotherapy, then there are certain things you do with your mind, with the structure of what you're thinking, and one of them could be called detaching yourself from yourself, right? Becoming detached from the idea of you as a self. Another thing could become detached from this habit of thinking incessantly about things. Because if you're not thinking, if you're simply desiring without thinking at all, just pure desire, and you go out and do whatever you do when you have a desire, okay, that is probably as close to detached as you can get. Unless you're running something.
Essentially, it's just saying to live without want. Right, it's to live like with content with what you have.
Right, to be content with the moment, the present, where we are right now, and basically not get so fucking bent out of shape about the fact that we're all gonna die. We're all gonna die.
I thought of a good way to put it: be detached from any future ideas. Like that.
Well, it's
you can't do that because you are an idea machine, so you have to have ideas, you have to have plans, you have to have a future. That's the misunderstanding of the AA's third step, where basically you turn your will over. People ask, well, how can I be ambitious and go to work and strive to excel at my job if I'm detached, right? If I turn my will over, well, that isn't the kind of thing that you're turning over. The detachment is a lot more subtle than that.
I think it's basically just saying, look, don't stress everything that you can't control. I mean,
Scott quit.
Yeah, son of a...
He's like that snake. Boy. He ate some pizza and he's got, his upset stomach, so he's like fucking bailing out.
Yeah, he became a fart into the wind.
I'll tell you what upsets a stomach: some Asian food, or Asian and Indian food will fuck your stomach right up.
I made this really great shrimp, kale, bacon, and green bean stuff. I don't know what it is.
That's the weirdest combination of foods I've heard described.
No, that's a perfect name for it, though. Stuff,
yeah. And I put mushroom base, this really good, high quality mushroom base and vegetable base, and I covered it and sauteed it and fried the fuck out of the beans. Ground the kale up and made this stuff, which I really like. I'm going to have some of that stuff shortly. The great thing about it, I do. But the great thing about it is it's like 500 calories per pound.
The fuck?
So you eat a fucking pound of this shit and have 500 calories. So this is great. This is good stuff, man.
That's not healthy.
Well, shrimp is amazingly low in calories.
500 calories per pound. That's
22 ounces of pure shrimp, fried shrimp is 700 calories, I guess. I think it was that's 2 pounds of frozen shrimp. It cooks up to 22 ounces. But I've been eating shrimp almost exclusively. Shrimp, cherries, blueberries, occasional banana.
I do like cherries. Cherries are good.
Oh, especially those. What are those fucking Washington ones? The ones that are yellow and they're yellow and red. What are they?
Yeah.
What are they called? Fuck, I don't know. I got some of those. Cool. Oh, and for fried rice,
I ate you lose weight.
Huh?
I lost weight. Yeah,
lost about 5-6 pounds. The thing is, I feel better. My body feels better without the carbohydrates.
Yeah.
So my son got subs the other day, and I got the sub without the bun, and then I got a Wendy's classic triple, and I just threw the bun away and ate the rest of it. It's fucking good.
That's the weird thing I've noticed. Like, even if the burger isn't great, the bun is.
Oh, I hate the bun.
I don't know. Like, there's some buns out there that just like make the burger.
You know what? You know what bread and bun. Do you know what bread and buns are for? When you're feeding your kids and you don't have enough meat, you give them some bread.
No, you haven't had good bread then.
Yeah, well, I've had good bread, but it's a treat. You know, it's not something you want to fucking put on everything. If you want to put something on everything, put bacon on everything.
No.
I agree. Bacon on everything.
No. Bacon is like an abomination to put on everything.
Bacon tacos. Oh my god. At Sam's Club,
bacon vanilla ice cream.
Yeah. At Sam's Club, you get this gigantic.
Get away from me. Oh, Jesus. You guys are just heretics.
Yeah.
God.
I don't think I could eat that.
God, what the fuck is wrong with you people?
I know. I don't think I could eat any of that.
You're like fetishizing bacon to an unhealthy degree.
Yeah. I mean, I like bacon, but I could never eat it like that. Like on.
I like bacon with eggs, bacon with sausage, bacon with toast, and stuff like that. But like not.
Yeah, bacon on a burger or something like that.
Sure.
But not
like on ice cream.
On a pumpkin pie or an ice cream.
No, seriously. Okay, don't put it. Okay, I'll disagree with Speed on one thing. Don't put it on every ice cream. Try it on vanilla ice cream.
Really?
Vanilla, yeah, you wouldn't want to put it on chocolate.
Really? Who the fuck?
Yeah.
Who puts?
People that know better. That's who do it.
But you know those bacon
redneck
chips the other
right
day,
now.
Speed. You gotta try those bacon chips. Lay's potato chips have the summer bacon chips. They're actually pretty good.
I guess probably the most southern thing I'm gonna say tonight. Has anybody ever tried like bacon and what's it? Not bacon and waffle, chicken and waffle chips?
Oh, chips. Yeah, I think I tried it. I thought they sucked. But what you want to do is you want to get like a couple pounds of bacon and fry it up, and then on top of the bacon you put more bacon.
I'm gonna go join Amy Newman's stream before I force myself to puke.
No, real quick. While you're trying weird things, you need to try one more weird thing, and that is next time you have chili, eat it with a peanut butter sandwich.
What?
Yeah, dip it in the chili.
Yeah. Oh, have you ever had
with these things?
Have you ever had a cucumber sandwich?
A
lot of people like that, though.
Yeah,
a lot of people
do
like that.
Yeah, and onion sandwiches.
The peanut butter chili and a sandwich thing is like a regional thing around me. Like everyone's done it for generations here.
Oh, Grr Mania is here. So we were watching your Maddox.
Yeah, he's curious about us because we actually mentioned him, so he's been stopping in.
Yeah, so the Maddox video was kind of precious. I think you had him on for like an hour and a half. We call him the shit fairy because of his farting pixie or whatever. No, let's see. What was it when he went on his channel? It was something pixie, myopic pixie or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that might have been it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy, I wonder, you never put that the other time that Matt X was on your channel, you cut it out and you had what's his name? You had Ontangelo on and then John came on. Ontangelo left and John stayed, and you never published that part of the video. And we would love to see that.
Yeah, I'm going to link that video of a Grr Mania video in my description here. Oh, let's see. Yeah, I kind of like your streams.
Yeah, he doesn't do them a lot, though, I don't believe. But, yeah, he's been doing them more so lately. Yep. And John, for some reason, I don't know, John likes him. He goes on every time he's live. John goes on.
He called John a little peepee, like 5 minutes after he got in. And John paused for a while, and he said, something about disrespect or something. And I don't know. It was precious. But that whole stream, everybody was kind of fucking with Lil Peepee, and he was totally serious the whole time. I think he lightened up a couple times, but it was pretty interesting. So
yeah, it was pretty good.
We love the shit fairy here.
I didn't think Rage performed at his best. I think
I didn't
but
listen to Rage much,
he,
or I didn't. He was quiet, wasn't he? I don't
no,
know.
him and they went at it quite a bit.
Okay, I have to listen to the rest of it. I haven't
It's
listened to it all.
it's a long string, right? They were in there for a while. Yeah, it was.
Maddox was pretty much triggered the whole fucking time. He just triggered.
Well, when is he not triggered? Whenever he's talking to an atheist.
I love when that guy was hitting him with the false dichotomy thing, and Maddox was just, you have the IQ of a fucking ferret or something like that. And that guy was just chill, and he was just messing with him.
Yeah.
Oh, and he was calling him bra, and he said, "Don't call her bro. Don't call me bro." Maddox loves to call you bro. It was a lively stream, yes. It is linked. I'll put it in the chat here, too.
Yeah, whenever Maddox comes up with like a, some sort of, not a hypothetical or something, they're so bad. Like,
oh, yeah.
His stuff, they're so fucked up. You can't even follow along with him because his brain just doesn't work.
In the first 10 minutes, he must have used the word context 40 times.
Yeah.
It got cringy after a while. So I started to develop a tick. Every time he said context, I, jerked a little bit.
Yeah. And did you hear? He must have used the word macro 1,000 times during that stream. Everything was macro this and macro that. And oh my God, John. Yeah.
Yeah. And the macro point being extrapolated. Being made in any other context, XYZ premise, so the whole premise, the concept of, in the context of again, and the perspective. He's got these little phrases that I'm going to put in this Python program, and I'm going to see if people can tell the difference between the real Maddox and the Python program, because I don't think you'll be able to. The man can craft a sentence that will fucking boil your brain.
Yeah. I put in the side chat there. I don't think he was paying attention to the side chat, but I put in there. Can I have some salad dressing with that? Can I have some dressing with that word salad of his? And yeah, it was just all as Darth Dawkins calls it, gobbledygook, right? It was most
gobbledygook.
Gobbledygook. Yeah.
Yep.
John will be listening to this. I'll tell you. He listens to this. He
can't. A lot of our stuff.
He listens to every word because he's just hoping and praying that we're gonna say stuff about him. He loves it. He absolutely loves it.
Yeah.
Because I think, like I told you the other day, like when was it? Was it the stream earlier? I can't remember. Whatever stream, it was either today or yesterday. I mean, we talked about him for literally seconds. I mean, it couldn't have lasted 15 seconds, and he talked about it and made a comment about it, about what we said on the stream. And the stream was 2 hours long. You talk about him, bring him up for 20 seconds, and he heard it. So obviously he listens to all, every minute of the stream. So that's good. I like that. Oh, Andrew is dying to come in. He said, he keeps saying, take a vote.
Well, come in.
He wants to come in. I told him to come in, bring up what you want to bring up, Andrew.
Come in. All you got to say is
welcome, and you just got to force your way in or into the conversation and say, "Can I bring this up? I want to talk about this."
He always says it in a real low voice speed, and I hear it.
Yeah.
I'm finally tuned to this. Finally tuned.
Yes, come in.
I'm tuned.
I told him that 2 hours ago, but you guys were talking about the Buddhists, so, and I know that's a favorite subject of yours. So
I'm gonna have to go eat my shrimp pretty soon. And when Amy has a parallel stream, I almost hate to run streams. So because for one thing, she's got 39 watching, we got 10. So what the fuck are we doing, guys? May as well go on over to Amy's and listen.
We're talking about wrapping your shrimp in bacon is what we're talking about.
Yep.
Well, what about scallops? You got to wrap scallops and bacon are good.
You wrap everything in bacon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I
Wrap
don't
that
think
in
I've ever wrapped shrimp in it, but scallops are good though.
I bet it'd be pretty good.
Bacon tacos are good.
You know, I'm pissed I haven't had lobster and I don't know how long. I was eating at least
it's high price now.
2 pounds of lobster. I was getting a minimum of 2 pounds of lobster meat itself. Just the meat.
Really?
Yeah, I was working. I was doing a job, and on my way home there was a seafood place, and it was right. There's like a road, and it divided, and it was the main, the ocean, and then there was a river right next to it, and the road divided it that I was working on, and the boats would come in and come down this river and go right to the seafood place, and deliver all their seafood right there. So, and then so they had a retail and a retail and a wholesale, and I mean this place would ship huge lobsters. I mean, you can buy any size you want. You go in there and they'd have 20 pounders, 25 pounders, enormous, huge lobsters. Wow. And most of them are shipped over to Japan because they just love the big, huge lobsters. And so they ship them over there like every day, the real big ones, because they like them for some reason. But
just do what my dad if you live in the proper climate. Just build a big pool, get some breeding stock, and feed them nothing but cheap dog food.
They're like $26 a pound at Sam's Club now. So,
but yeah, so this place I would start. I drove right by it right on the way home. So every Friday, you get your paycheck, you're driving home, and my truck the wheel would just turn into that place every Friday. For some reason, I couldn't stop it. And
so, what did you pay a pound for it?
It was $45 a pound.
Oh, wow!
So it would cost me about $100. I'd spend about $100, and I'd get 2 big quart. Like if you took a little quart, container, it's jam full. But I'm telling you, the lobster tail, like all the lobster meat that they made there, were all from enormous lobsters that you were eating. Like just in one of those quarts, you'd be eating a minimum of probably 1 quart, which is about $45, right? You'd be eating, they're 4 and 5 pound tails, enormous tails. Like they're not just the little, they don't, they cook every size lobster. So you had enormous claws, enormous tails. They weren't just pounding a quart of meat. It was all massive sizes,
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I was eating it every Friday. It probably over the course, I did this job for about 3 months. I probably bought over 100 pounds of lobster there in that amount of time.
Are you seeing this? Andrew's trans now.
Yeah. Oh, is that what it is? So I was blowing about $100 when I was contracting at about $100 a week on Alaskan king crab, which is something I love. I haven't. Yeah. I'm on a budget now, so. Fuck.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, if you ever buy lobster, or at least where I'm at, like if you buy like a lobster, a live lobster, right? You would buy like an 11-pound lobster, and once you cook it and strip all the meat out, you only actually get 2 pounds of meat out of that lobster.
Right. Yeah.
So depending on what you pay a pound for that 11-pounder, usually the 11-pounders are real expensive. You're paying $12, $14 a pound. Well, you do the math. You get 2 pounds of meat out of that. You're paying $140 for the lobster. You buy 2 pounds of meat, and you're only paying $90. So you could actually get 3 pounds of meat, a third more, right, for the same price if you just bought the meat. So that's why
these are frozen lobster tails, $25 a pound. But then they got like fucking 3 ounces of water.
Yeah.
And then the tails. I don't know. I should go get some. Damn it.
Yeah. I mean, if you can get it at, 40 to 45, $50 a pound, even 55, that's not that price. It's what I'm telling you, it's well worth it. You'd be surprised. If you've never bought it like that, buy yourself a pound and see how much that is. It's a lot of friggin' meat. A lot. Yeah. A pound of meat is a lot.
So pro tip, learn to scuba dive. And
Oh, yeah.
don't steal lobsters from traps because that's illegal, but steal lobsters from right next to traps.
Yeah, and stay
Right.
away from
Yep.
whales because
Yep.
those fuckers will swallow you.
Yep. Yep. That just happened.
You don't want to
Right,
learn
Andy?
about the Bible like that.
Yeah, I thought that was so funny. I'm like, oh, Jonah the whale, it came true.
Yeah,
That
it
was
spit
funny.
them out. I like
Yep.
that it spit them out. It's like, fuck you. I don't want this shit in my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, and the guy was diving for lobsters too. That's what he was doing.
Grr Mania's got a pound for us.
Yeah.
That's what your mama said.
Yeah.
Andrew wants conflict. I just don't know what we're going to conflict about.
I don't know. We're supposed to vote whether we want Andrew in.
Well, like
I
two
want
people said yes, I abstain, and someone else didn't say anything, so I think you win.
Yeah.
I know, but whatever, Andrew.
Well, Andrew's
You're gonna run out of time here.
Yeah, I'm threatening to end the stream here. I'm going to shoot this thing in the head.
Yep. But hurry up.
Pretty soon you'll hear cows and, you know.
Yeah, I was surprised that when you put that the link out. I was surprised that Knucklehead didn't jump in. Thank God he flew by like the wind.
Yep. Uh-oh. The cows are wrestled. So my raccoons have changed their behavior in the last this year compared to all the other years. They used to never let the little raccoons eat. Now the entire flock lets the little raccoons eat. They used to bite them and chase them away.
Really?
And I don't know why they're doing that. Maybe they all think they're the father. Maybe she convinced them all that they were all the father, I think, is what happened. I don't know. But they were just out there. A nice picture of 4 little ones. They're really dark.
The little ones never came up. They'd always stay away.
Well, yeah, when they came up, the adults would just viciously go after them. And I'd bite them, and they'd run up a tree, and they'd cry. But this year, these 4 raccoons are, I think it might have been 5 of them tonight. They've been eating with the rest of the group. And it's really odd that their behavior changed like that. And also, my raccoons are not gaining weight like they used to. I don't know what's going on. I know the coyotes are fucking with them, but must be chasing them around all night. Or also working out or something. Maybe they joined the gym.
Did you change? Did you change the brand of food?
No, same kind.
Same brand, same kind every time. Yeah.
You see,
Yeah, it's amazing if I have like some steak left over or some meat left over or ham, I'll throw it out there. And if I drop dog food, they'll drop the meat and pick up the dog food. That's what they want to eat. That's like their favorite food.
Yeah, yeah. I know they do really like that. I knew that for sure, but I didn't know that they would give it up for like meat, though. I was surprised. I didn't realize they would do that.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
Give them hot dogs. Hot dogs. I love hot dogs.
Yeah, and then I should film it, and I'll get like 45,000 views of video.
Yeah, that guy there that gives them all the hot dogs. I wonder how much money he spends on. I mean, does he do that? I think he does it every day, doesn't he?
Yeah, well, he makes a lot of money on his videos. I think he had 8 pounds he fed him one night. He had 8 pounds of wieners. And they look like ballpark franks. Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know he gave him that many. Holy shit.
Yeah, he had a big, huge pile of them. And they were grabbing them. And it was pretty cool. They'd grab it and then they'd put it down and come up for another one. It was funny.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fantastic until one of them gets rabies, and they all have rabies.
Yeah,
I know. That's the scary thing is you got to watch out.
I wonder if I've had my rabies shots. I don't think so. So, Andrew, what are you going to convert to?
I said I was going to convert.
Just convert.
That he was being converted. Convert to agnosticism because it's the only correct
I was
answer.
trying to get your attention.
Oh, I know. You did. You got it. So
Yeah,
anyway,
you got our attention. You got our attention. Go ahead.
we got our attention. Do you feel pressure?
A little bit.
Good. We want you to feel pressure.
You were going to join us tomorrow too, right?
Yeah, 10 a.m. Central Time. Can you do? Oh, that's 8 a.m. for you. Can you do that?
Oh shoot. I don't know if that. I don't know if that'll work because I gotta go to my grandparents' house to celebrate Father's Day
at 8 a.m.
I guess I can wake up that early. I don't know.
Your grandfather's your father?
No.
Are you from down south?
No.
Stop teasing them.
I'm not from down south, and you celebrate grandfathers and fathers at the same time where I am.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that's fair.
You weird city people feeding raccoons.
Yeah.
Not caring about granddads.
I ain't a city person. That's for damn sure.
Speed lives in the city. I thought he lived in Antarctica.
Kind of, yeah. I live there with the. We're finding new civilizations down there every day with satellites.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
You heard about all that, right? I think Professor Dave just did a thing on that. I think.
Speed's teaching me phylogeny tomorrow, so.
Teaching you basic genetics first.
Yeah.
Maybe a little carbon chemistry. I don't know. We'll see what comes of it. I'm just so shitty at it. It's just I don't know. I'll try. But that's why I need you guys to ask me questions and kind of explain what you're not getting.
How good are you, Andrew?
In phylogenetics?
No,
at teaching. At teaching.
Probably really bad.
Yeah, knowing is one thing, teaching is another.
Yeah.
But I think we can answer some questions, or we can at least get started. So we can we have enough tools to talk about genetic entropy and created heterozygosity and all that bullshit. So.
Yeah.
Yep. So I don't know. I was thinking about ending the stream. What do you think of that? Or do you have something?
Atheism false.
Atheism false.
God
Who
damn
said I
it.
was never an atheist?
Evolution false.
It's because we haven't figured out the nature of it.
Abiogenesis is a joke, Tony. That's a direct quote.
Yes. Yeah.
How about this for a subject? Am I an atheist?
Are you an atheist?
I'm not quite sure.
Really? Are you an agnostic?
I'm not quite sure.
Well, let's see. Okay, so to be an atheist, you have to have something you don't believe in. So you have to define the God you don't believe in.
Yeah.
So, okay, there's a big man, bear, pig God in the sky somewhere outside of the universe that creates universes. And he does it kind of like humans do, create cars.
Yeah.
And he creates life that way. Do you believe in that?
The way you described it, no.
Okay.
Right.
That's pretty much.
Do you believe in nothing?
Nothing.
Yeah. Do you believe in nothing?
How old are you?
Because if you believe in nothing, that makes you an atheist. You are definitely an atheist. That's what that's what all the theists think, that we believe in nothing.
To be fair, if you believe in nothing, you would be an atheist.
That's right. That's why I asked him that question. I'm trying to figure out if he's an atheist. All right.
Okay.
Do you believe we came from rocks? Do you believe we came from rocks?
Does your belief about how existence is, does it include a God or does it exclude a God?
Like how I live my daily life.
Does how you think the universe exists, like existence is.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I don't think so.
Okay, then you're an atheist.
Okay. I feel like I don't know. I often consider myself a teapot atheist.
Teapot atheist? Oh, you're not sure if there's a teapot out there?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I can't deny the possibility, but I don't believe in said possibility. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, there's plenty of space junk out there.
Yeah, there might be
orbiting Earth.
Yep.
I'm telling you, forget God. The new religion is going to be teapotism. It's going to be a big hit.
I think a lot of the so-called atheists in this room are secretly pantheists.
I would say, I would say that based on what you just said, in my opinion, you're an atheist. Now, I think most of the theists will disagree. Well, some of them will, that's for sure.
What is the most charitable version of a god?
I would say the pantheist version of a god is probably the most charitable, because it's just equivalent to existence of the universe.
Right. Yeah.
Which is why I say most atheists are just pantheists.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems kind of silly.
What are some other varieties of gods?
Who is that? I can't see them.
Danny. That's Danny.
Danny.
Yes. Oh, I got to stop this screen. I'm sorry.
How are you, Danny?
I'm good.
I have some philosophical questions you asked you, but Speed's going to end it, so I don't know if I could get into it.
Well, I have a question.
He was going to end the format such that you couldn't see my avatar. That's what he meant, right? Speed or
no? I was going to end the stream, but if you guys got philosophical questions for Danny, that would be appropriate.
I had it. Yeah.
You need some filler in the donut that is this stream, Speed.
I need what?
You need some custard filler in the donut that is this stream.
Ah, wonderful! You should write for Colbert.
Can you wrap God in bacon?
Bacon in the middle of my donut.
Shit, now I'm drawing a blank and I can't remember. I had like 2 or 3 questions that I wanted to ask Danny.
I'm sorry.
When he came in the other day, Danny finally came after not being here for a while. I wasn't there. I think 2 streams. I think it was last Saturday night, right? It was the first time he came in, and then he was in another time. And I had 2 or 3 really important questions I wanted to ask him, and now I forget what they are because it's been so long. It's been like a week.
Did it have to do with like theism?
Shit, I don't even remember. And they were really good questions too, and now I can't remember what they were.
You just blue-balled me.
Shit. They were really good questions too, and I was dying to ask them, and now I can't even think of what they were.
I'm guessing
all right, you guys talk for a second, and I'll really think to see if I can remember what they were.
I have a question for you, Danny.
Yeah.
Do you I guess I'm guessing you've heard of this argument from creationists about when cornered about God the gaps, they say naturalism of the gaps. Have you heard of
that's why it's so amusing. I smile every time.
So I'm guessing you're not a fan of it.
No, I think there's a huge difference. The idea of naturalism, well, first of all, naturalism is not an explanation for anything, right? It's the view that if something engages in causal relations, at the least it's like natural or something like that. So it's like saying, the idea is that if you think that there is some kind of phenomena that's explained by naturalistic means, and you have some external justification for why you could be potentially justified, and that being naturally explained, then that is just to say that it's not naturalism of the gaps or whatever they want to say. I think they want to say is that what they're really trying to say is that, look, we have this phenomena. It could be explained intentionally. It can be explained naturalistically. We opt for intentional explanations, and you're just saying, well, like, the fact there's some naturalistic explanation just in virtue of the fact that there could be a naturalistic explanation. And I think that is problematic, right? But that's not what's going on. What's going on is that you might have reasons to think that there's like a kind of barrier to like what I would say an epistemic barrier to knowing whether there is a divine or an intentional explanation. And that the reason why you can entertain naturalistic explanations because those generate predictions, right?
I mean, so we're on the same terms. Could I maybe give because my definition of natural kind of goes all over the place. Because again, I'm not a philosopher or anything, but I feel like how I would describe something as being natural is something that, like a phenomena or explanation that adheres to one of the standard fundamental assumptions of science, that something can in principle be investigated, and it can be investigated to, as far as we can tell, no limits.
Yeah, I mean, that's first of all, understanding the term natural is not an easy term to like flesh out, but I think it does have to do with something that could be investigated. But I think some people like to add other things to that because they claim that there are things like you can investigate mathematical relations or logical proofs, right? So I think the idea is that you're investigating, at the very least, something concrete. That is to say,
something empirically, basically investigated.
Right. Well, at least that something that engages in cause-effect relationships.
Right.
So you want to do that. Some people add that like there's like regularity, or there are laws that govern these causal relations, and so science is the business of studying those sorts of things that whose behavior can be sort of described in terms of these laws or regularity. So that's a conception. Some people take the view that science is that which can study the thing in things that are in the third person point of view. So like an electron has no first person point of view; it's in the third person. Although that's not as common of a view, but a lot of naturalists kind of have difficulty expressing what they mean by natural, and they think that it's more demonstrative. Like if you can attribute the property to, let's say, a ball, then you really don't need to go any further and kind of logically reduce the term natural if you can properly attribute it to objects. So there's that view that there's no sense in fleshing it out. We know what we're talking about. There's a set of dominoes that are collapsing, right? These are a bunch of physical things, right? Physical relations, and if we can both agree that such a thing is like a physical phenomenon, then we don't need to flesh the term out anymore. But it's a very difficult question what you've asked or what you've gotten at. I don't think it's a simple one.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've asked this question about this supposed argument of naturalism of the gaps to a professor of astronomy, and one of the example they gave me to try and illustrate why it doesn't work as an argument, and I feel like I understand it overall, but some of the details elude me.
This is the way I would respond. Okay, so anytime you hear God of the gaps or naturalism of the gaps, what they're telling you is that you have no justification for thinking that there is some naturalistic explanation over an intentional explanation, right? So what you want to do is just highlight that. So let's say I accuse you, oh, you're just naturalism of the gaps. Then you just say, well, I just take that to mean that you think I don't have a justification for why I think it's naturalistically explained rather than intentionally explained. And, well, this is just false. Here are my reasons for why I think there's some naturalistic explanation rather than an intentional explanation, and then you can give your reason. That's how I would address it.
Okay. Because I feel like in some cases science can investigate intentional explanations, if I'm understanding what you're saying correctly.
Well, I think that's complicated. The point is that I have a very unique view, but the point is that let's say I'm having a conversation with you and you want to explain that and intentionally, like I desire to have a conversation with you or something, right? But I don't see why someone like a naturalist might just say, or like an eliminativist more specifically say, no, we should discard this desire talk, right? And this belief talk. What really explains why this human being's mouth is moving is certain neurological phenomena or states, the amount of this chemical in proportion to that, and the arrangement of neurons, and we can just dismiss or disregard all of this like desire belief talk, right? And so so there's a sense in which science can fully eliminate folk psychology, right? And a lot of people take this view. Patricia Churchland, Richard Rorty, Daniel Dennett takes a kind of view, maybe a little bit nuanced than what I just gave. There are a lot of people that think this, that like we should just drop our folk psychology terms and substitute that for naturalistic terms like neurons and brains and and dopamine levels and whatnot, right? That we can fully explain why I'm moving my mouth the way I am and why I'm expressing these sounds just merely in terms of those things and not in terms of what I wanted to do or what I believed or something.
Right.
But back for a moment to naturalism of the gaps. When you have a gap, methodological naturalism does not assume that there has to be a naturalistic explanation, but it does assume that it does assume that this is what we are going to look for. So we basically set out to look for that naturalistic explanation, but at no point do we make the assumption that there can be no other explanation.
I think Speed must have a proprietary definition of methodological naturalism.
Methodological naturalism is not a metaphysical position; it's a method of science. That where you basically set out to explain something and you test things, you create causal context, and then you find out if a thing happens, and you look for that naturalistic mechanism. But you're not assuming that that's what you have to find. If you did find a supernatural mechanism or something completely, I don't know how you would get outside of naturalism, but if you did find something, it would not be rejected. You'd find it.
That's not what I think to be methodological naturalism.
So you think they presuppose that it has to be natural? They have a gap. They don't know what it is.
I'm telling you what most people mean by methodological naturalism is they don't presuppose intentional explanations, like divine explanations, for instance.
No, you don't presuppose anything. You've got a gap, and you use naturalism, use the tools of what we know about the natural world to fill that gap. That's what we do.
Yeah, you're just using a prior we're not disagreeing, Speed. You're just using a different definition of methodological naturalism.
Yeah, I just take it to mean that when you're looking deeper into some phenomena, you're basically taking what Danny would call intentional explanations, putting them in their own little separate box and kind of putting it to the side while you're doing your investigation.
See, there's always a version of like physicalism. There's a version of physicalism that says all that I know is physical, and everything hashes out physically. But then there's another version that says all that there is, all that there ever will be, is physical. Now that extra added claim is unnecessary, and in methodological naturalism, we never want to make that claim, because you always want to keep your eye out for that strange phenomena that doesn't fit any of the fucking
things. How people use the phrase. I mean, you're just using a different definition.
Well, okay, metaphysical naturalism would be saying that it has to be natural. Everything is natural, or you could use it that way. That isn't my naturalism anyway. But let's see, methodological naturalism, Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. So, do they give a definition? Has no very precise meaning in contemporary philosophy. That's unfortunate. That's a bad way to start off.
I think the scientific process is just like there's people vaguely know what they're doing, but like there's no standard set in stone way of doing it. Basically, it's kind of like a big bush that keeps moving forward.
There's another adjective that they add to it, pragmatic methodological naturalism. That may be what I'm talking about. I'm not sure. But there's a paper by Boucher on this. Methodological Naturalism in the Sciences. So, and there's a download PDF button on it. I'll link it.
Oh, I think I saw that paper earlier today. What were you going to say, David?
I remember one of my questions that I want to ask Danny, but you guys, when you're
No,
done.
I don't want you to forget.
No, you can go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Can you explain all possible worlds? Like, I mean, I know what that is, but like on terms of like how you use it, what you use that for, like that kind of.
Yeah, I mean, when I say in all possible worlds, I guess synonyms for that would be like in all hypotheticals. So in every case.
Right.
Right. But I don't really think there's a deeper meaning than that.
Yeah, I mean, I see that used. You know who uses it a lot is the kid Matt from Physical Debunked. He uses that term a lot.
Okay.
All possible worlds when he, that I don't know if you listened to it was a long discussion just the other day on Math Pig's channel. So I don't know. Sometimes it gets a little confusing when people use it, like it. I mean, I understand what it.
Kind of tricky.
Yeah, I understand what it means, but sometimes, like when people are, like when he's discussing certain things and he uses that term, I don't know, it gets confusing for me sometimes.
Well, it's probably his fault because it's a very if there's confusion, right? Because it just means something like in all cases or in all hypotheticals. So if someone is using it like saying in all cases, blah 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 blah, and it doesn't make sense, it's probably their fault.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, there's a few people that use that term a lot. I mean, you use it here and there too, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
like if I say something that's true in all possible worlds is necessary.
Right.
Necessarily true. Or so to say that there's some necessary truth means it's true in all possible worlds.
Right.
Or if it's false in all possible worlds, it's a contradiction.
So that was the other thing, was kind of like I wanted to talk a little bit about necessary too, like that those go hand in hand, right? Obviously,
you got to be careful with necessary because it's used in all sorts of ways. But if you're just talking in modal terms, like you're talking about like in logical terms, you're talking about something that's necessarily true. So it's something called a tautology, meaning that it just given, it's kind of reducible to like some law of logic. An apple's an apple is necessary. It's a tautology because it's just a reflection of the law of identity, right? And so, something P, some proposition or some truth is not some sentence is not can't be true when the negation is. I'm trying to get the contradiction, but like the idea is that if you give the law of non-contradiction, then that's going to be necessarily true. And so if you find a contradiction, that's going to be necessarily false or a contradiction.
So another thing is, do you believe there are brute facts?
Yes.
And what would that be?
It just means that there are facts that are not further explained.
Yeah.
Because if there are no brute facts, then you only have one possibility then. I think, yeah.
Right, yep.
Andrew, did you see that last link I put up? It's a Peaceful Science on Methodological Naturalism. So.
Yeah, I saw it in the chat.
Okay.
So, hey, I guess I had another question for Danny, but it's kind of more scientific and off topic.
Go right ahead.
So Danny, I'm presuming that you accept the Big Bang Theory.
I don't know anything about that, honestly. I just I accept at this whatever the consensus view for sake of argument. I don't know anything about it.
Okay. I guess okay. I'll ask a different question. Because you mentioned consensus, and I actually posted a comment on LPP's community post today, and he was talking about scientific consensus and how we need to think for ourselves and all that. How do you view the average lay person and how they interact with the consensus? Because I kind of go with the view that if there's someone smarter in the room, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're right, just that there's more likelihood of them being right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so this is a good question.
Well, not smarter, but with expertise or knowledge in that field.
Right.
Not necessarily intelligent. Yeah, okay.
The way I look at it is that I only really appeal to consensus when I'm ignorant of the subject, right? So what I use is I draw my prior probabilities about certain groups of people or individuals, and then I use that to weigh who I lend credence to, given that I'm ignorant. So the idea is that if I don't know anything about young Earth creationism or like evolution, very little about evolution, like I don't, phylogeny, all this, I don't know any of this stuff, right? So if I have a debate about SFT, about the claims of young Earth, you'll probably destroy me, right? And so what happens here is that I can either give credence to the authority of SFT, or I can lend credence to a consensus view that generally gets things right, even if SFT generally gets things right in other subjects. For maybe in that respective subject, I might consider the number of individuals that, the sheer number, that's to say what it means for consensus, that I might respect that. The point is that I don't have the time, nor am I interested, right, in these things. And so it's practical for me to accept a consensus, and I'm not obligated to accept what SFT is saying on authority, right? Now, there are cases where I would be, right? So let's say SFT starts with what I believe and then says, here's what you're committed to. That is not what's going on when I appeal to consensus, right? If SFT tells me that spiders have 7 legs, okay, he's not. Well, I don't know. It's weird because I don't know anything that I don't know. But like, the point is that if he tells me some unknown biological fact, right, to me, he's not starting with what any of my beliefs to get me to be committed to a particular conclusion. He's starting with something that I'm ignorant about. So I'm not obligated to believe him, right? I'm only obligated, think about this. You are only obligated to believe something given your prior commitments and your prior knowledge, right? If someone telling me that there's this species of fish in the Indian Ocean that, that eats, I don't know, krill, right? I don't know anything about that, right? You're not starting from my beliefs. So I'm not committed to believing you, okay? But if you were to say, oh, okay, Danny, if you believe that fish have scales, then if there's a fish in the Indian Ocean, then it has scales, right? And if it is the case that I believe that fish have scales, all fish have scales, which is not true, by the way, then I'm actually committed to that proposition, right? I'm actually, I should believe that fish in the Indian Ocean is scales. You see the difference? Like, so there's like a point in which you tell someone, you're informing someone about the world, and then you're going to have to lend credence to their testimony over others. And then there's the case in which they're saying, hey, if you believe X, Y, Z, then you're committed to X, right? And that is something that's independent from any consensus considerations. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so. Are you basically saying kind of like how and forgive me if I am misunderstanding you, but like you're saying like if X astronomer goes up to a layperson and says, "Hey, I'm an astronomer, therefore I'm right, you're wrong." I guess is that kind of what you're saying there? Or
what I'm saying is that if the astronomer tells you something, informs you about what's going on in the sky or with the stars, right? And it's not in conflict with another set of astronomers or group of astronomers, right? You might have a commitment to believe such people, right? Given your prior knowledge, okay? And but if it's the case that that astronomer is some kind of fringe astronomer, right? And he informs you about the world or tries to, and it's in conflict with this larger group of astronomers, you're not committed to believing him given your prior knowledge about the other group of astronomers being generally correct, right? But that's not to say that you have or that's not to say that what he is saying is necessarily right or wrong. It's just saying that you have some kind of you're just kind of giving a kind of commitment to what you believe. So remember, there's a distinction between what you're justified in believing and what's true. Okay,
right.
You might be committed to something and it not be true, right? So you might be committed unto yourself to believe a consensus view, and that means you're justified in believing that, but that doesn't make it true.
Right. We had this big battle. We had this
ahead.
Big battle. Did you hear the battle? What? Probably, I don't know, a week or two ago with Dessel. We had this whole long stream and a battle with Dessel about consensus.
Yeah, I remember. Yes. No, I think that my view on this is that if they're not appealing to if they're not starting with your beliefs and telling you what you're to be committed to, then someone is just using their prior probabilities about groups of intellectuals versus single individuals making claims, or using those prior probabilities as to decide what they're committed to believing, which testimonies they're committed to believing. But none of that has to do with who's right and who's wrong, right? No, that's not a truth tracking thing. It's you're just talking about just what you're justified in believing, right? So, like I said, SFT tells me there's some fish in the Indian Ocean that has these properties, right? The consensus view tells me there's no such fish, right? I'm justified because I don't know anything about this stuff, right? I'm justified in believing the consensus view, but I understand that doesn't confer that though the consensus is right.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just because there's a consensus doesn't mean it's necessarily right.
But you might be based on your prior probabilities. You're justified in taking the consensus testimony rather than the individual SFT's individual testimony.
Right. Especially if they're on the fringe too.
Yeah, but there like I said, there is an exception to this, right? The exception is if the SFT starts with, hey, if you believe that all fish have scales, right? And if there's a fish in the Indian Ocean, right, then it has scales. It doesn't matter. Consensus doesn't even matter there, because what he's doing is he's appealing to what you are originally committed to and showing why you should be committed to other things. That has nothing to do with informing you about how the world is. It's informing you on what you are committed to believing unto yourself. And that's different. Consensus doesn't matter.
I mean, I think we both agree that at least for scientific consensus, there's kind of a likelihood attribute to it, right? Like,
yeah, and that's based on your priors, right? That's just based on your background information about such groups and individuals, right? So it could be the case that you're in a society in which the group is not trustworthy and rather an individual is. And then it could reverse. But I think we're in this society where, generally speaking, biologists get it right, and generally speaking, young Earth creationists don't get it right. So you're justified in accepting the consensus, even though, and that's not a claim that they're wrong.
Right.
Right.
Sorry.
Oh yeah. One last thing. I think I want to give an example of a case of SFT. So let's say, or maybe just a case with myself. So like, there's a consensus that there might be some mind-brain identity relation, right? That's a consensus, right? If I tell you, oh no, the mind and the brain are distinct things, right? And you were to say, well, sorry, I don't know very much about that, I'm just going to accept the consensus, you're justified. But if I tell you something like this, right, that if a belief has X property, right? If you think a belief has this X property, and if you believe X property has Y property, and if you believe Y property has Z property, and Z property is a non-physical property, then you're committed to thinking that beliefs are non-physical, right? That's a different scenario than the previous one, right? Because the idea is that what I'm doing is I'm giving an argument that you would be committed to given your starting beliefs. So you have a decision, right? You can drop your original belief, or you can accept what I'm saying. Or you have to deliberate about it. The point is that consensus just doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. What you're basically saying there is like, kind of confirmation bias, right?
Oh, I don't know if I'm saying that. I'm saying that there's a difference between someone informing you of the world, and because you're ignorant, you choose a consensus view, versus someone telling you if you believe X, you're committed to Y, and then their consensus doesn't factor in at all.
I mean, to me, it would kind of seem like in the latter scenario, it's kind of a new type of consensus in their mind, at least. To me, it would kind of seem like in
sorry. What can you in the latter scenario?
Yeah, I mean, like if you're trying to think of how to word this, if you're already
oh, you're kind of starting belief, like you're starting from okay, yeah, no, you're right, but sometimes you start from very basic beliefs that have really nothing. Like, do you think, for instance, beliefs are the sorts of things where you kind of hold something to be true, and most people think that that's true, right? And then I can then like maybe talk more about what that means and eventually get to some conclusion that you didn't previously hold, right? The point is that if the consensus didn't hold to that conclusion, you're actually going to be irrational for accepting the consensus rather than revising your basic belief about what a belief is, right? Does that make sense? So let's say, so what I'm trying to say is that if you believe that a belief is X and that carries Y property, but you didn't believe that that beliefs had Y property until I showed you the argument. The point is that if you were to reject that conclusion in favor of a consensus view, you'd be irrational.
I don't know. It seems to me like that is just a kind of a false consensus in that case. Like you weren't aware of the true consensus that was encircling the one that you are aware of.
Oh, I don't see that. I wonder why you're seeing that. Tell me why you're seeing that.
Because maybe I'm misunderstanding you, but like, say if like you said, if you had starting beliefs and you're looking at this issue and someone tells you something, and they say, okay, well, I have these papers and I have these experts who agree with me, and if someone from the outside were to look into it, you would see that experts are actually like 1% of the scientific community. So I think it has.
You're changing my hypothetical. You're just saying the consensus is not a consensus. But here in my hypothetical, there is a consensus, right? Let me just give you. Can I give you a real life example, maybe?
Sure, that would help.
Okay, real life example, right? I don't accept natural selection, right? If I told you as explanatory, rather, okay. So if I say, Andrew, natural selection isn't explanatory, and let's say you didn't know anything about biology, so this is not that real life, okay. The thing is that you have an option. You can believe my testimony, or you can accept the testimony of the majority of scientists and evolutionary biologists and such. Now, you're committed to believing the consensus view. It's rational. In fact, you're justified in believing the consensus view that natural selection is explanatory. No problem there. You've rejected my testimony. You've rejected my assertion for the assertions of the consensus based on your prior probabilities. No problem with that. Okay.
And that's in the case where I'm ignorant on the subject, correct?
Right. Now, it might be the case that you give me an argument for why is explanatory, in which case you're not appealing to consensus at all. You're appealing to an argument, right? So you're ignorant here. Let's say, okay, now I'm going to change the hypothetical, right? Or a little bit, right? So let's say, let's say I say that natural selection is not explanatory. And then I start with certain beliefs that you have about natural selection. Okay. And then I give you a chain of inference that you one by one accepted in this case, let's say, that led you to the conclusion that natural selection is non-explanatory. So what's happened here is that you've accepted, there's a chain of inferences based on your starting beliefs about natural selection that lead you to a conclusion that's at odds with the scientific community, right? So there, if you decide to nonetheless accept the consensus view of the scientific community, you're irrational because you've also accepted the chain of inference rules that you've started with your own beliefs about natural selection, right? And I know this is all hypothetical. I'm just illustrating a case where scientific consensus or any kind of consensus is going to lose in virtue of you yourself are committed to the conclusion that they don't accept because of a certain argument or chain of inference, right? And that's different than the former case where I'm just asserting things like natural selection is non-explanatory, right?
So you're basically talking about the first scenario where I am accepting consensus and the second scenario where I'm not, correct?
Right. In the first scenario, you're justified in believing the consensus, right? The second scenario, if you were, you'd be irrational because unto yourself in this hypothetical, you've accepted the chain of inference starting from what you originally believed to the conclusion that's at odds with the consensus.
Right. Yeah. Now, what about when you throw in contradictions in there? If there's a contradiction, does that mean can you have a contradiction and it still be true?
I don't think so, but there are people that have that view. They're called dial atheist, and it sounds like dial atheist, but it's dial with an E, dial atheist. Okay. I don't know. There are very sophisticated people that take that position, and I have no clue why. But just so you know, there are people that believe true contradictions. There are cases that motivate this, though. I do know that. Like, for instance, have you ever heard of the liar's paradox?
Yeah. Yep.
The liar's paradox is a motivation to hold to dial atheism, right? Because the idea is that it's both true and false. That a liar, a person that always lies, expresses the proposition I am lying. The proposition I am lying being true and false. So that's a motivation. But there are so many ways of addressing the liar's paradox. But I'm just telling you, one way is dial atheism.
Well, I've never heard of that, dial atheism. Now, what about, what if you, let's say you have a contradiction, right? But, or at least you think you have a contradiction, but there may not be an actual contradiction there, right? I mean, obviously that's possible.
We call that I usually call that a paradox. So it's like it's paradoxical, for instance, that when you explore, you try to learn something, you find out that you know so much less than you did, right? So like in this, it's paradoxical to say that like in my pursuit of knowledge, I've come to know that I don't know anything, right? That's kind of paradoxical, but there's no contradiction. There's better examples. That's just one off the top of my head. But the idea is that a prima facie contradiction is what I would call a paradox. Okay. Prima facie meaning at a glance, right? So it could be at a glance contradictory, but actually not. And when we call that paradox or prima facie contradiction.
So generally speaking, if there's a contradiction, then it's not true.
Generally speaking, absolutely. That's what most philosophers talk. There are people that there's different kinds of logics, of course.
Always acceptance.
Like para-consistent logic, you might get some stuff there. There are people that like in certain intuitionistic logic reject proof by contradiction. I don't know what that shows, if that is anything related to what you're saying, but the point is that there are different controls of logic. I just don't accept any of them on two accounts. Number one, I don't really understand what they mean, and number two, it's weird to argue for a different logic, because what you're using to argue for a different logic is like usually classical logic, which is so bizarre, that you're using classical logic to prove a non-classical kind of logic, a para-consistent logic.
Right. Yeah. One thing I haven't really looked into too much is the different types.
Yeah, one
I
of the
don't know
biggest
that.
problems with accepting like a true contradiction or something like that is something called, you can look it up, called the principle of explosion. And that's to say that in classical logic, the principle of explosion is that you can infer anything from a contradiction. So if a square has 8 sides, if that's true, then pigs can fly, and that follows. That's called the principle of explosion. So you can look into that if you're interested.
Do you believe in the principle of sufficient reason?
I don't accept the principle of sufficient reason. No.
You don't. Okay, yeah.
I mean,
I don't either. But
there's different usages of the term, but generally, the term is brought up in philosophy of religion in most cases, and in metaphysics, I don't accept it because I think the idea is that if everything has an explanation, then that means there are no brute contingent facts.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So then that leads to what we were saying earlier about brute. If there's no bruteness, there's only one possibility.
Right. Yeah. The Canadian Catholic accepts it, right?
You got to be careful with Canadian Catholic.
No,
I don't know. No one knows what Canadian Catholic believes. I think he's just kind of like having fun on the internet. So
yeah, probably. Yeah, I'm sure.
But yes, he very frequently expresses affirmation of the principle. But there's a strong and weak principle of sufficient reason. Some people might use the PSR to just apply to certain domains, like science. Like science is going to accept a principle of sufficient reason. For every effect, there's going to be some sufficient cause for that effect. But then they just restrict it to the domain of natural or physical states. But I hear that less often, but I've heard it. But generally speaking, no, I don't think. I think that the conclusion of the principle of sufficient reason is you get something called necessitarianism.
Yeah. Leo brought it up. We were talking about it earlier in this stream, very early on when we first started talking. Leo brought that up. So.
I bought a book. One of the best philosophers that accept the principle of sufficient reason is a philosopher named Alexander Pruss. He's at Baylor University, I think, and he wrote a few books on this issue. And I bought one of them, and I plan to read it. So
Danny, I had one more question for you before was I roboting?
Yeah, a little bit. For me, you were. Yep. A little bit. You're good though.
Why does it always do this when everyone is muted except me? I don't know why. Okay, someone has to stay unmuted or else I'm gonna sound like a giant robot.
I'll stay unmuted. Go ahead.
Okay. So Danny, have you also heard the claim of because I think most philosophers of science would recognize at least a slight distinction, however blurry, between historical and observational science. But do you think one is necessarily inferior than the other, or what's your position on that?
Oh, I don't think you're gonna like my position, but I think this question really boils down to what you mean by science. I think there's a general sense of the word that a general sense of the term in which you could say that the distinction is not much of a distinction, but in some philosophers of science like to distinguish like natural history and then scientific inquiry. So the idea is that with natural history, you're really talking about accidents in the natural world. And so there's no necessity, right? So let's say you talk about how the Himalayas formed and you paint this picture about continental drift and tectonic plates and all that. The point is that there's no laws about how high mountains form and how long they stretch and whether there's no like natural law. What you're doing is you're saying something. You're talking about a set of phenomena that is kind of accidental in the natural world, because you could have a world in which you have no Himalayan mountains, no Mount Everest, but the natural laws are all the same, right? And so but in the case of maybe physics and chemistry, especially physics, right? You don't care about accidents. You care about necessity, right? What is it that made it such that this ball had to roll down the hill? And then you appeal to the behavior of matter and motion and all that stuff and laws about these things. And there, you're not talking about accidents. You're talking about necessity, physical necessity. So one way I understand, as you say, historical science, as some others might say, natural history, is that you're really talking about accidents. You're talking about why is it that Mount Everest has the height that it does? Why is it that I don't know, human beings have this gene rather than another gene, right? The point is that gene didn't have to exist. There are no laws of genes in the sense that I just gave, right? Like, it's not like there are, we can talk about a human having this particular gene, but not, it's physically possible that we could have the same phenotype with a different gene, or maybe something like that. Maybe I'm ignorant. I'm not using the terms right. You get the point, hopefully. The point is that I think historical science is in the business of natural accidents. Like a good way to illustrate this distinction is, think about, do you think it's impossible that you could have a lump of gold with the diameter of a mile? Is that physically possible?
I suppose it is.
Yeah, it doesn't violate the laws of physics. But now, what about a lump of uranium or with a diameter of a mile? That's not physically possible.
Yeah.
Right. And so if we found, the idea is that when we find a lump of gold, right, the fact is that the reason why there's that particular diameter, right, of gold doesn't have to do with natural laws, right? But the reason why you have a fixed diameter of uranium, a lump of uranium, does have to do with natural laws and constraints. And so that's the distinction, I think, between what some might call historical science and what was the other one? Methodological. What was it?
I guess some call it observational, operational science.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think that I prefer to use the terms I had. I don't think that didn't Young Earth creationists coin these terms? I think these terms are a little bit vague. I like to categorize. I like to talk about natural history, scientific or natural accidents, and natural necessity.
Right. Yeah. I would be inclined to agree. I also think that, for example, it's sometimes it's not really clear where to draw the line, especially to me at least. It's more like a gradient of becoming more and more accidental in the way you described it.
Yeah, like a meteor. Am I muted? I don't know if I'm muted.
No, you're
good. Like a meteor. Like when we want to know why the dinosaurs went extinct, it seems like whatever explanation we have there, it's perfectly, like, it's very valid to come to a good conclusion about how the dinosaurs went extinct. There are various hypotheses. I'm kind of ignorant, but apparently it was some kind of meteor, or
Yeah, that's the most accepted one.
Okay, well, let's just say. Go ahead, David.
When you say why, when you're asking why, isn't that more of an ill-formed question when it comes to science? Like, because that implies purpose. Like
I see what you're saying. So when I mean why in these cases, I mean what explains.
Right. I understand that, but wouldn't you say that that's the case, or?
I guess it just depends who you're talking to, but it's true. Maybe when we're talking about science, it seems like why I hope most people take my meaning as what explains. But if I want to make sure no one's misunderstanding me, I'm not talking about function, purpose, or telos.
Okay.
Okay.
But the idea is that why did the dinosaurs go extinct? Meteor. Perfectly fine explanation. It seems like people can be justified. It's a quote unquote valid inference, right? The point is that if in a world in which dinosaurs went extinct because of something different, let's say a disease, okay, or a virus, it's not like the laws of nature would be different between the two worlds.
Right.
Yeah, and so that means that it's generally an accident, right? It just so happened that a meteor hit Earth at that time in that way, such that dinosaurs went extinct. And
Right.
so yeah.
I take it as we're limited to this specific phase of time right now, and in that way, what some might call historical science is kind of a way of explaining this phase of time or the phenomena within what we see today, but according to a historical narrative.
Yeah. And that's kind of what the part that seems a little bit the hard pill to swallow is, notice what I'm not calling natural history. I'm not calling it scientific history. I'm calling it natural history, right? And so the question is, when we do natural history, are we doing science? That's extremely controversial, right? If you take, like I said, a very broad concept of science, you might be able to say that when we're doing natural history, we're doing science. Other people take the view that science is in the business of discovering physical laws and laws of nature. But if that's true, then suddenly discovering things in the natural world, historically speaking, no longer becomes science. So really, when creationists say that, there's a distinction between historical science and all this, they want to make this distinction. I think they're equivocating on the word science when they say there's some real significant distinction, right?
Yeah.
I could be wrong about that. I would have to ask one, but the point is that you have to really be careful on how you're using the word science in a way where you want to encompass certain domains if you want to encompass them, right?
Right. I think one thing that does complicate what you're saying, though, might be that when you're looking at specific theories, sometimes they incorporate what we might call aspects of both what you're saying, natural history and physical science today. So like I said, it's kind of blurry. I can see kind of a conceptual difference, but practically it seems kind of hard to draw the line.
Yeah, you might want to say that, all science is finding things that are true of the natural world.
Right.
Okay. That's not as myopic, right? Because the other definition I proposed was something like science is in the business of finding physical necessity, natural laws. Now notice there's a distinction between an inquiry about natural laws and an inquiry about what's happening in the natural world, right? Because if you take the former, then natural history, when you're discovering things in the natural historical record, you are doing science, all right? And I think that's fine. I think that usage of science is perfectly fine.
Right. Yeah. I guess it does depend on who you ask.
Yeah. Remember, we can only ask each other about what we mean by the terms when we're in an argument, right? And people
I just feel like if you were to press most science, or at least a large portion of scientists, something inclines me to believe that they would accept the former definition rather than the latter.
I think you're right too, but a lot of people like to include in the notion of science predictions.
Right.
And if you do that, then you get into more complicated territory, because the idea is that your explanations for, your accidental explanations, there's going to be a little bit problems in terms of how predictions work in that case.
And this kind of gets into the other thing I was saying earlier, which is kind of the longer a time scale you're talking about, the more complex your explanations tend to become, and kind of the more uncertainty arises.
Exactly.
For instance, when you going in the other direction, when you're talking about what am I going to order for dinner tonight versus what am I going to order for the next 70 days, is obviously one's a bit more complex than the other. So I kind of think in the same way the direction going in the other direction of time is sort of analogous, though not Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. I think something that you can think about too is think about, let's say we want to verify these two propositions, right? Let's consider the proposition that there's a horse in my bathroom and versus the proposition there was a horse in my bathroom.
Okay.
Well, there is a horse in my bathroom can be very easily falsified if I just step into the room, right?
Right.
If there, or you know, rather verified. Sorry, verified. Right. I can just, because the idea is that there is a horse in my bathroom generates exact predictions based on my concept of horse. Right. The idea is that what verifies that is the meaning of horse. Okay.
Right.
But there was a horse in my bathroom. It gets trickier. Why? Because no longer are you operating on your concept of horse. You're operating on correlations between horses and other phenomena. And that, there's no necessity there, right? Example is that generally when there are horses, there's crap all over the place. That's my experiences. Right?
And hair.
And so if I see horse crap all over my bathroom, that seems to verify very well that there was a horse in my bathroom. But notice that if there wasn't crap all over my bathroom, it falsify the claim that there was a horse in my bathroom, because we can imagine a case where there was a horse in my bathroom for only 5 seconds.
Right. I do think, however, it does lower the likelihood. Would you agree?
Sure. No, I'm fine with that. I'm not disputing that. The point is that this is the complication between history and the present moment when you're verifying something that is the case, right? Or that will be the case, right? Trying to verify something in the past, you start to lose. You don't rely on what forms your concept of certain objects as much, rather what that thing in the world corresponds to, usually in a kind of cause-effect way, right? And that, there's no necessity with respect to that, it seems like, whereas there is necessity in terms of what a horse is, given your concept of what you mean by horse.
Right. And I think the troubling thing is that some creationists, at least, like in the context of the horse, for instance, unless someone wrote it down in a book or something, you can't know anything about whether there was a horse there.
Can you say that again?
This is kind of analogous to if you weren't there, or if someone else wasn't there and wrote it down or inscribed it somewhere else, then there's no information about it, or no verifiable, accurate information about it. In this case, it would be the Bible, and obviously in the horse example you were giving, we can still test it. So I think that's the thing that's
the horse analogy was just to show that when we get into verifying past events, we lose a lot of our ability to appeal to the concept of the object that we have, right? Because no longer, I mean, I don't want to repeat myself, in case you do understand, but that's all that was suggesting. So yeah, I think that the further, and this is kind of goes to your other point, the further back you go down, like if there is an ark, if there is a worldwide flood, well, that's just so easily verifiable, right? Or falsifiable, right? But there was a worldwide flood that it takes a lot more work,
I would just say that, you lose a lot of information, but I think we can both agree that in most cases, at least, not all of the information is lost to time.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like we're still utilizing our concept of such things, but what we have to do with respect to history is how that object, right, the referent of the concept, interacts with other things.
Right.
And that's a little bit trickier because people's priors are usually different, or or whatnot. A horse example is maybe too simplistic in the case. Theology, there's a whole line of information there, but
I get the point.
Good. Okay, as long as you get the point.
I think we can both agree that in some sense, at least, both are scientific in a broad sense, right?
I think so. I mean, I kind of teeter-totter, but I think I know exactly what people mean when they're saying that I'm doing science when I'm studying fossils. And
or radiometric dating, or
Well, radiometric dating, that seems like there's like necessity there, which is kind of cool. So that's
kind of.
Well, maybe I don't know anything about radiometric dating, but like
me neither.
I think that radiometric dating seems like physicists are interested in that. Physicists are less interested in fossils, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I take your point. I think the idea is that with radiometric dating, you're still operating on certain views about how the past was, right?
Right. Yeah. I like I said, the line gets blurry. Multiple aspects can combine in different ways and different scientific ideas. So it's like I said, conceptually easy to imagine, but in practice, the how science is conducted, or what we might call natural history and science, as you said, is fuzzy.
It's interesting. That's why, but precisely because it's fuzzy.
Yeah,
it'd be boring if it wasn't.
Life is full of exceptions, and that's what makes it interesting. Well, to some people at least. I wonder if Speed's back. Speed.
He's probably sleeping.
Oh boy.
I wonder if Dog is alive.
Well, if we do move on to something else, I just want to say it was nice chatting with you, Dan, and I'm glad we could agree on some points.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be boring if we agreed on everything, though.
Yeah, I know. I just seems to be most of the case, or most of the time, we're disagreeing about more philosophical subjects. But here I'm glad we could at least.
What do we disagree about? Like natural selection, probably, and what?
Yeah. Probably like dualism or something like that. Even though I don't know too much about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh,
hey. What's up? So I'm watching Bo Burnham's latest special on Netflix.
Oh.
Is that a comedian?
Yeah. He did an awesome thing in 2020 while he was sequestered. So anyway.
All right. I'm going to go. Thanks for having me on, Speed.
Yeah.
Yep.
See you, Danny.
Thank you, Danny.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
So can we shoot her in the head?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I will see you tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
Okay. That'll be good.
Stay curious.
Okay, Top Dog.
Cruel World. What do we have here? Oh, yes. We're killing it.